meeting of Goodyear City Council, January 14, 2008. Would you please join Councilmember Holland in the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please stay standing and ask you to bow your heads as a sign of respect. Protect our military here and on the battlefields in Iraq, Afghanistan, and wherever we may choose to send them. Protect our firemen and policemen in the line of duty, and guide our communities, city and business leaders in making good decisions. And special strength to the leaders of our state and country who deal with worldwide issues every day. Amen.
Thank you. All council members are in attendance this evening. Council will consider ratifying accounts payable for November 2007.
Mayor, that's the point. I'm going to recuse myself from this one because we've got payment. Just full disclosure, I didn't vote on the contract that's related to HDR, but they're my employer, so given there's a $163,000 payment this evening to them, I'm not going to be involved in the ratification of that.
Okay, understood. For the record, the Vice Mayor has recused himself from number 4, approving or ratifying expenditures. Are there any comments on them?
Yes, on the HDR engineering, the design services, is this part of that design services bid, or is this in addition to? Is our finance?
Is that Larry here?
I saw him. Oh, yeah.
All of these payments would be part of the procurement process, so yes, that would be part of the services under contract.
It's not additional monies, though, on top of what we have already contracted them with?
No, sir. No, sir. It would be part of what was been contracted.
Do we have additional, is HDR staying within the budget that we approved?
If the project, I don't know who's managing that project, sir. We're just, as far as managing and the whole project of the budget, I would have to research that for you. We can research that and get you a report, though.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank you,
Yes. Okay. Councilmember Souza.
Yes, Mr. Ray. I had 2 inquiries regarding expenditures, but I contacted finance and they clarified the situation for me. So I have no other questions.
Okay, thank you. Further questions, comments? Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion to approve and ratify the expenditures. All those in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. 6-0. We'll now move to communications, and Ken Heng will present the City of Goodyear campaign contribution to the Valley of the Sun United Way.
Good evening, Mayor. If you can come down for a photo, I'll get all 3 of us in the photo. Here is the campaign chairman to award the check to the United Way, Valley of the Sun United Way, for the 2007 campaign. It was a 350% increase over last year's campaign. This year's campaign was $18,000. I'm going to just take a photo for the mayor. I have Lisa Sealy and Lee Wales here from the Valley of the Sun United Way.
Yes, I just want to say thank you. You're changing lives, and thanks to everyone who gave, and thanks to Ken for leading the charge, and that, wow, 350%. That's amazing. Congratulations. Good work.
We now provide the opportunity for any resident or citizen to comment to approach the council on any subject which is not on this evening's agenda. If it's not on this evening's agenda, would anyone like to comment on any subject?
Mr. Mayor, we have a request from Dale Camerata.
Okay?
Mr. Mayor and Council, my name is Dale Camerata, and I'm with Estrella Youth Sports, a nonprofit organization from Estrella Mountain Ranch. Started a year ago. We have about 800 children that participate in the organization from 3 years old to 8th grade, all from the Liberty School District at this point in time. We do have baseball, basketball, and other sports. A flyer came out recently, as 2 days ago, from Goodyear Little League stating that Goodyear Little League would be the only organization that was going to be able to use the new community park being built in Estrella Mountain Ranch. My question is why Goodyear Little League would be the only organization to be able to use that. I found out today that the city does not support that flyer, but the flyer did come out, and it went out to over 4,000 residents that they would be the only ones allowed to use that. So even as a nonprofit, I still have a bottom line that I'm trying to reach as well, and this affects my bottom line as people will simply stay up in Estrella Mountain Ranch to play on those fields if they have the opportunity. I've asked the city for a retraction on that flyer, that Goodyear Little League would put that out, and the answer was no, that they would not do that because they don't run Goodyear Little League. The problem is if you sign up for Goodyear Little League, you write your check to the city of Goodyear. You don't write your check to Goodyear Little League. So the check goes to the city of Goodyear. So in my mind, there is a relationship there. And I believe that that should be put out by either the city or Little League, that other organizations are going to have the opportunity to use those fields. Now, the other part of that, and I know I only have a few minutes, the other part of that is that when Goodyear Little League, with that relationship, the checks are made to Goodyear Little League, they collect all the money. It's a good chunk of money. Over 700 kids are paying $85 at a time. Goodyear Little League gets to then use those fields for free. I was told today that we would be able to use those fields. If you look at the numbers, it would be over $135 a game for me to use those fields. That doesn't include umpires or anything else. So I'm not sure how that is allowed to be fair. So I asked the city if they would begin to collect my fees for me, as I'm a nonprofit as well, collect my fees for me and give me the same benefits as they're giving Goodyear Little League, since we're the exact same type of nonprofit. And I was told that that relationship would not happen as well, and I was told that the relationship was put together on instructions from City Council to have that relationship. That was well over 3 years ago now. I believe that Goodyear Little League should be able to stand on their own now, and that relationship should be severed between the city and Goodyear Little League. And everybody, the city should maintain the parks and do exactly like they're doing now. And all of us, whether we're nonprofit or profit or anything, we should have to pay the city to be able to play on those parks. But we all pay the same, and not one organization for free and another organization paying $135 a game. You do 5 games a night, 2 nights a week, 4 weeks. That comes out to a lot of money. That's very difficult to charge people enough money to use those fields that way. So I would just ask that council at some point in time would relook at that relationship of Goodyear Little League with the city.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
This is becoming increasingly controversial. I met with Mr. Camerata and others a couple of weeks ago. Things are not getting better, apparently. We really, I think, need to be able to explain the reason for the flyer error and document that for council. And also, I'm just concerned about the relationship. What do you think if we had, say, 2 council members take this on as an additional project to help achieve some agreement? Because this is an important subject.
Yeah.
Well, it's not just with baseball, it's other
Soccer and,
Yeah, it permeates other areas as well. I.e., how do we bring together the private use and the public use? And we aren't doing that very well, or at least we're having problems.
And I was wondering, what?
Mr. Mayor, I'm just going to point out this is not an agenda item this evening, so we'll need to refer this to future discussion.
We can't talk about it.
Okay.
Thank you. I was just going to say that.
Mayor, we can direct staff to bring back an information item, though, maybe.
That was my
Yeah,
the next
comment.
I think the city manager is prepared to do that. Yes.
Would you like to comment?
I think it would be appropriate to bring back an information item at the next meeting.
Yes.
Just for information, doesn't have to be for action necessarily, or maybe it is, but I've had many conversations with staff about this as it relates to soccer, as I still am, so.
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, yes, staff will bring back information, and we have been meeting on this subject, but we'll bring back an update to council, absolutely.
And that, and that includes the investigative information that'll come back from this particular incident?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and then we'll go from there, but I think we all agree that this certainly needs our interest. It deserves our interest and hopefully gets our involvement. Okay, so thank you, Mr. Camerata, for bringing that to our attention. Any other comments from the public that you're aware of? Okay, we'll now move, for those, if anyone is here for Palm Valley 303, that is the first item on our agenda for business. Okay, so now I'm going to move to consent. And ask the clerk if she would read the items by title only, and I understand that you are postponing, postponing consent agenda item N, and that's the completion of the Saraville water line installation. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, item 7A. Council will consider approving draft minutes of a special meeting on December 3rd, 2007, a special meeting on December 6th, 2007, a special meeting on December 10th, 2007, a regular meeting on December 10th, 2007, and a special meeting on December 21st, 2007. Item B, council will consider approving a request from Nick Bruton, representing Rubio's Restaurants Incorporated, for a Series 12 liquor license for Rubio's Fresh Mexican Grill, located at 15479 West McDowell Road, Suite 101, which is the southeast corner of McDowell and Pebble Creek Parkway. C, council will consider approving a request from Hai Bing Bai, representing Dragon Ball Inc., for a Series 12 liquor license for Beijing Chinese Cuisine, located at 14270 West Indian School Road, Suite C1, northwest corner of Indian School and Litchfield Roads. D, council will consider approving a request from Randy Nations, representing Fresh and Easy Neighborhood Market Incorporated, for a Series 10 liquor license for a Fresh and Easy Neighborhood Market located at Cotton Lane and Yuma Road at the northwest corner of Cotton Lane and Yuma Road. F, council will consider approving a request from Diana Morrow, representing Bird Enterprises of Arizona, Inc., for a Series 11 liquor license for the Cutting Edge Bar and Grill located at 1188 North Dysart Road, north of I-10 and south of McDowell Road on the west side of Dysart Road. Item F, council will consider approving an application for Ronaldo Maldonado for a new Series 12 liquor license for Nakama Sushi Restaurant and Lounge located at 13215 West McDowell Road, Suite D3, generally located on the southwest corner of Dysart and McDowell. Item G, council will consider approving a use permit to allow convenience use for Culver's Restaurant with drive-through on a 1.47-acre parcel in the Cobblestone Creek Commercial Center, generally located at the northwest corner of McDowell Road, Pebble Creek Parkway, in the Palm Valley Planned Area Development, subject to the recommended stipulations. H, council will consider approving a use permit to allow a convenience use Burger King restaurant with drive-through on a 0.81-acre parcel generally located west of the southwest corner of McDowell Road and Pebble Creek Parkway in the Pebble Creek Village Marketplace Planned Area Development, subject to the recommended stipulations. I, council will consider approving the final plat for Pebble Creek Phase 2, Unit 44, subdividing 24 acres into 61 single-family lots and one tract generally located west of the northwest corner of Clubhouse Drive and Saraville Avenue with the Pebble Creek Planned Area Development, subject to stipulations. Item J, council will consider approving special use application for 1,600 student public high school on a 51.28 acre parcel generally located 1/4 mile east of Citrus Road along the south side of Lower Buckeye Road within the R16 Single Family Residential Zoning District. K, council will consider approving the final plat for the Litchfield Office Park condominiums on approximately 2.71 acres generally located at the southwest corner of 140th Avenue and Thomas Road within Phase 2 of the Palm Valley Planned Area Development, subject to stipulations. L, council will consider adopting ordinance 08-1100, providing for conditional rezoning of 25.44 acres of land from the light industrial zoning district to the final planned area development zoning district, generally located 1/4 mile north of the northwest corner of Litchfield Road and Yuma Road, adopting supplementary zoning map number 07022 to provide for the change in zoning, providing separability, and providing for effective date. Item M, council will consider awarding a design-build contract to Hennessy Mechanical in an amount not to exceed $888,970 for construction of an arsenic treatment system for the Adman Mutual Water Company. Item O, council will consider accepting the Goodyear Police Department and Goodyear Fire Department grant awards from the Arizona Department of Homeland Security in the amount of $5,000 for each department, a total of $10,000. Authorize the mayor to sign all documents with regard to the Goodyear Police Department and Goodyear Fire Department grant awards. The second part of that O item is to authorize the mayor to execute an intergovernmental agreement with the state of Arizona for participation in the statewide Terrorism Liaison Program, Officer Sustainment Program, providing for separability and providing for an effective date.
Okay, thank you. So we have A through O with the exception of N. Would anyone in the public wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Would anyone on council wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? I am not wishing to remove an item, but I would like, can someone explain to me Culver's? It's a new word for me. I'm not familiar with that one. It's a fairly
Mr. Mayor.
good-sized restaurant. Anybody? Culver's?
Yes, Barbara?
Mayor, members of council, Culver's is...
And would you introduce yourself, please?
Oh, my name is Anna Lack, and I'm a planner one with the Community Development Department. Culver's is a high-end restaurant from the Midwest. They're just opening some stores here in Arizona, in Phoenix, and Tempe, as well as Goodyear.
What type of food is it?
They're famous for their butter burgers, but they do have a lot of old-fashioned foods. What you do is you order at the drive-thru, and then you pull around and wait for your order, and the staff brings it out to you. Or you can go in and order as well, and they bring it to your table. So fast food type foods, old-fashioned.
Okay, thank you very much.
She said high-end.
Okay, could I have a motion then to approve the consent agenda A through O with the exception of N?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Souza, a second from Vice Mayor Antoniak. Could I have a roll call vote?
Vice Mayor Antoniak,
Aye.
Councilmember Sousa,
Aye.
Councilmember Cavalier,
Aye.
Councilmember Osborne, Councilmember Holland,
Aye.
Councilmember Lord,
Aye.
Mayor Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Passed 7-0.
Okay, we'll now move to the
Mr. Mayor?
business.
Mr. Mayor, excuse me just 1 second. We had a speaker request form that came in just under the wire from Mr. Stephen Anderson, standing in the back. If you want to go ahead and introduce this in the agenda now, you can if you would want.
Is this, well, certainly I'll do that, but is this for a non-agenda item, or is this?
I don't know. Sorry, I was
No.
friendly skies friendly.
Join us.
Mr. Mayor, this is PTO Palm Valley Elementary Playground as the subject matter.
Yes, sir. Major Steve Anderson, Mr. Mayor, council members. I'm Steve Anderson, so aside from the uniform, I am a citizen here of Goodyear. My children attend Palm Valley Elementary, and really what this is a request for information. I've made several calls throughout the city government, and so I'm coming VFR direct, as we would call it in the fighter pilot world, to find out which person I need to talk to. As you may know, Palm Valley Elementary, for the last several years, has been one of Arizona's top-ranked schools in the entire state. And with that, the students and the teachers and the staff and the district are certainly doing their job and pulling their weight down there to make sure that, I'm sure there's several brochures and several realtors out there that have made several dollars on houses for moving their people into this area because of the school and the school district. However, Palm Valley Elementary, the playground, if you have not visited that, and if you haven't had children in elementary school for some number of years, is quite dilapidated. I've had a discussion with the not the superintendent, but the construction manager inside of the school district, and I probably should introduce that I'm the chairman for improving the Palm Valley Elementary playground. With that, what we have done is we're trying to attack the problem through three ways. One, the PTO raising a substantial amount of money, about $40,000, trying to get to partner with the city and partner with the school district at the same time if we can, and try to put in about $120,000 playground, with each one of the three entities only having to put up about $40,000. At least that's the idea. A better way to use taxpayer dollars in order to get a playground that most people, including the YMCA and several other agencies, actually utilize over the weekend to play soccer and the like. So what I'm trying to find out is where in the city council or in the city government I need to start putting my finger in to the dike here and try to get some funds coming our direction, or see if we can get some form of intergovernmental agreement happening between us, Palm Valley, the elementary school that is, and try to get this dilapidated playground that is completely collapsed and give the kids somewhere safe and somewhere that's better to play. That's all I got.
Okay, well, thank you. And Mr. Dalkey, can you respond to that?
Yes, Mr. Anderson, we have your contact information. I'd be happy to contact you right after this tomorrow. Let you know the right person. It will be Jim Nichols, Deputy City Manager. We have your contact information, and if he's... we don't have a phone number?
I'll make sure I get your phone number there.
He'll meet you in the back right after this.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, if I could, Mr. Dalkey, I would almost venture to guess that Mr. Anderson's request of us this evening is somewhat germane to the other issue that was introduced to us by our fellow citizens down in the Stray Mountain Ranch about field usage and the like. So maybe when you talk more offline with Stephen, I'm sure learn. I'm a parent of a Palm Valley child, so I've heard Stephen stand in front of 600 people at a PTO meeting and plead his case. But I think some of the issues are somewhat germane and cost both of them. So.
Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you letting me go backwards.
No,
Thank
glad you came.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll now move to business agenda. We're going to start with Palm Valley 303. Open the public hearing.
Mr. Mayor, before we proceed any further, as I indicated this afternoon, I'm going to recuse myself from this conversation on items 8A and 8B.
Yes, sir.
For conflict of interest.
Okay, the public hearing's been open. The staff presentation is by David Canning. You may ask the applicant also to join you after you speak, and after that, before we close the public hearing, we'll have opportunity for the public to speak, okay? And then we'll close the public hearing and we'll go to the council. Okay, David, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. The subject 1,500-acre property is generally located between Citrus Road to the west and Charles Boulevard.
Could you speak up? I'm sorry.
Oh, sure. The subject 1,500-acre property is generally located between Citrus Road to the west, Charles Boulevard to the south and southeast, Thomas Road to the south, and Camelback Road to the north. The general plan land use designation for the property is LUC-compatible land use area, which calls for light industrial and commercial uses which comply with adopted state legislation. The applicant is requesting rezoning from the agricultural district to the final planned area development district that would allow both light industrial and commercial uses. A total of 1,138 acres is planned for light industrial and 367 acres are planned for general commercial. This differs slightly from the original Palm Valley Master Plan, which envisioned just over 1,000 acres of light industrial, 1,013, and 492 acres of general commercial. The applicant has submitted design guidelines and development parameters for Palm Valley 303 to ensure a unified development theme. Within the design guidelines are development parameters pertaining to building uses, setbacks, landscaping, parking, height requirements, and architecture. The applicant has included Palm Valley Perimeter West within the design guidelines and is renaming it to Palm Valley 303 Phase 1. And Palm Valley Perimeter West is that portion which is currently under development and was rezoned last year. The greatest impact that limits the acceptable types of development in Palm Valley 303 is Luke Air Force Base. A significant area of the property is located in the accident potential zones, and nearly all of the property is located in the 65 LDN and higher noise contours. All development in Palm Valley 303 must comply with state statutes which prohibit certain uses within the accident potential zones and high noise contour areas. The applicant has met with representatives from Luke Air Force Base several times to discuss the project. Luke Air Force Base has agreed in concept to the zoning and will have an opportunity to review and comment on all development projects before they are approved by the city. And this is stipulated within the ordinance before you tonight. The citizen review meeting was held on October 24th last year to discuss this rezoning proposal. At that meeting, the residents were primarily interested in learning more about the proposed land uses and building heights north of their homes along Charles Boulevard, and that would be within this area here. The applicant informed the residents at the meeting that he would examine the issue of building heights further in order to reduce the impact of the development on adjacent residential uses to the south in Palm Valley Phase 5. Subsequent to the citizen review meeting, this case was presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission at the regularly scheduled meeting on November 14th. The Commission continued the request because a public hearing notification sign was not posted on the property, but still discussed the case and allowed the public to comment. At that meeting, the issue of building heights along Charles Boulevard was a primary topic of discussion. The applicant responded to this concern by creating additional setback requirements for buildings greater than 30 feet high along Charles Boulevard. This case was presented a second time to the Planning and Zoning Commission at their December 5th meeting. At that meeting, several residents spoke against the project and had concerns with how it would impact their properties. Some residents also said they did not know that industrial and commercial land uses were planned north of Charles Boulevard. At the conclusion of the public hearing, the Commission took action to recommend approval of the rezoning request by unanimous vote. Within the past several days, staff has received numerous email messages from residents who are in opposition to this project. The residents have indicated that they are concerned with a number of issues, and those issues include building heights along Charles Boulevard, land use compatibility between light industrial development along Charles Boulevard and the Phase 5 residential neighborhood, truck traffic on Charles Boulevard, loading and unloading activity during nighttime hours, and the orientation of bay doors along Charles Boulevard. As such, staff and the applicants have worked together to address these concerns through new stipulations, and those stipulations have been given to you tonight. I'd like to go over those stipulations.
These are changes from the document that's been presented to us.
That's correct. They are
From
additional.
today.
That's correct. Okay. Additional stipulations. Please. We can, starting at stipulation number 34, or rather 33. Building heights. Residents have always had concerns about building heights. Staff and the applicant try to work out a solution which would set the buildings back farther the taller they got. But we've looked at this issue again, and we've come up with stipulation number 33, which says buildings in Palm Valley 303 Phase 4, and that's, again, the area just north of Palm Valley Phase 5, which are within 300 feet of the north right-of-way of Charles Boulevard or in lots abutting any residential lot in Palm Valley Phase 5 shall be limited to 2 stories or 40 feet in height. So if I could direct your attention back to this exhibit, everything within 300 feet north of Charles Boulevard and this area here would be limited to 40 feet in height or 2 stories. Stipulation.
Again, will you point that out again?
Okay. It would be everything north of Charles Boulevard, right here.
Okay.
And also including this portion of Palm Valley 303
So it's
Phase
the full
4.
length of St. Charles Boulevard. So it's the full length of
It's the full length. In addition to that, it's also this portion here, which Charles Boulevard does not front.
Thank you.
Okay, and this is clearly what we're changing to, but for everyone's information, could you state what we're changing from?
What we're changing from is a requirement that would allow building heights, or rather, a parameter that would allow building heights up to 75 feet high. So we're reducing that to 40 feet high in this area within 300 feet along Charles Boulevard. So there's been a substantial reduction in height.
And are we also increasing the distance?
Well, there's two different. There are actually two different parameters. The way it was before, a building could only be 75 feet high if it were 270 feet away from the nearest residential lot. In this instance, for example, a 30-foot high building could locate 30 feet from this residential property line, but that's basically the same way it worked before. If a building exceeds 30 feet in height, it will have to be set back an additional 5 feet if it's located immediately adjacent to a residential lot, or 3.5 feet if it's separated by a residential lot by a street, in which case this is Charles Boulevard.
Setback 3.5 or 5
Okay,
feet
let me
respectively.
clarify that. It would be set back 3.5 feet in addition to the 30 feet that's already required. So,
For every foot of height above 30 feet.
correct, another 3.5 foot setback would be required.
So it's a step.
Correct. Well, actually, I believe it's still in the development parameters.
That's not how this...
It's not how it reads, but there's something in the development parameters that covers that, and I can show that to you. If you turn to, if you have it in front of you, Phase 4.
Are you talking about this packet?
Right, correct. It's the Phase 4 tab. Hopefully there's tabs on it. Maybe not. It's page 9, towards the end of the 8.5 by 11 inch sheets. Those pages are numbered.
Page 9?
Page 9. It's this sheet. Correct. It's towards the back.
It's the development parameters, so section 11.
Section
Page
11,
9.
correct.
Architectural design standards.
Got it.
Sorry, what is this again?
Section 11, page 9 of the applicant's pack.
Okay, got it.
And it's this section, Section H required setbacks. And
And you're saying stipulation number 33 would address?
Stipulation 33 would be in addition to the required setbacks section, which is H, which talks about the required minimum setback distance. If a
So it'd be under
residential,
I.
I'm sorry?
So under I,
Actually, I see it under section H on page 9.
H, but I under that.
Oh, small I, you're
yeah,
correct.
A1.
You're
A1.
correct, yeah.
Well, it's got an I, not a 1. but-
Yeah, no, you're right.
That could be typographical, but I don't know. This is an I. Page 9. So it's 50 feet.
That's if a lot abuts, that's if a lot in Palm Valley 303 Phase 4 abuts a residential lot, in which case it does just in this portion over here, because Charles Boulevard does not run through. In the other instances, along this entire length of Charles Boulevard, it would be 30 feet, and that would apply to a building that's 30 feet high. For each foot above 30 feet, you'd have an additional 3.5 feet of setback.
what height are you proposing, what building height are you proposing along Charles Avenue?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the maximum building height would be 40 feet within 300 feet of, or 2 stories within 300 feet of the north right-of-way line of Charles Boulevard.
From 5 to 2.
Let me ask a question. Why did we, in the past, residential, when those residences were built, and they were stipulated to only be single-story homes, why on the other side of the street are we allowing 2-story buildings?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I was not here for when that property was rezoned, so I can't answer that question. But staff believes that the reduction from 75 feet in height to 40 feet or 2 stories would be sufficient in this instance. You have the 84-foot wide right-of-way of Charles Boulevard, which is going to provide an extra buffer from Palm Valley 303 Phase 4. And there's also a canal on the north side of Charles Boulevard, which is 30 feet wide, and that's going to provide that much more of a buffer between uses. Before, we were talking about 5-story buildings that were 75 feet in height, and we believe the reduction will be compatible with the neighborhood.
I appreciate the reduction. I'm just...
Were the homes stipulated in the zoning case? Were the homes stipulated to be single-story in that neighborhood? They were? Okay.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Councilman Osborne. Yes, it's been a policy when we have residential development that abuts an arterial roadway, and in a lot of cases, collector roads, that we limit the height to, or limit it to single-story buildings. And the purpose in that is aesthetics. It gives a canyon feel. If you allow 2 stories along a major roadway, it doesn't have as good an appearance. And if you'll notice, if you drive north on Dysart Road and you look on the east side where Rancho Santa Fe is, you'll see 2 stories that are really close to the arterial roadway, and you'll see on the Palm Valley side we don't have 2-story. We learned from that experience, so we just limited 2-story roadways on major arterials, and it's purely for aesthetics. That's why we did it. In the case of north of Charles Boulevard, we're talking about a different type of land use.
Okay, again, this is a public hearing, and we have to make sure we do understand your change of stipulations, David, during this public hearing. And we'll be asking questions once we close the public hearing on other things. Okay?
I'll move along with stipulations. I apologize, I thought you were talking about the industrial, or rather the Palm Valley 303 portion of the project rather than the single-story homes. Moving along to stipulation number 34. This one addresses land use compatibility. We had a lot of concerns raised from residents about what type of uses would be planned along Charles Boulevard. Currently, the underlying zoning is light industrial, and technically you could have anything ranging from a large cross-dock billionaire to large distribution warehouse building to an office. And so staff worked with the applicant to try to reduce the number of allowed uses within 300 feet of the north right-of-way line of Charles Boulevard. And so stipulation number 34 says that only business and professional offices, private business, professional and trade schools, scientific and research laboratories, and commercial trade schools and business colleges would be permitted at that location. And moving on to stipulation number 35, another big concern was with truck traffic. The residents asked where would the truck traffic go within this development. Well, we can't tell you for certain the exact truck routes at this time because the property hasn't been platted. It's very possible that the trucks will use Camelback Road, Pebble Creek Parkway, and Charles Boulevard. Of course, Pebble Creek Parkway would run right through the residential portion of Phase 5. Charles Boulevard borders the northern portion, so it may be appropriate to limit truck traffic within Palm Valley 303. And the stipulation says that, and this is per city code, that the city manager or his designee may designate restrictions or prohibitions on truck traffic within Palm Valley 303. Again, we're not prepared to tell you exactly where this should occur because it hasn't been platted yet. And there were a couple other issues raised, and I'll just go over those briefly. Loading and unloading activity during nighttime hours. This one is really not an issue because all of the property just north of Charles Boulevard will be limited to those uses which I just talked about in the previous stipulation. Those uses will not have bay doors. And even if they did, we have a requirement in the PAD development parameters which states that bay doors are not allowed to face Charles Boulevard. And that concludes my presentation. Staff is recommending approval. The applicant is here. Along with this request, there was a comprehensive sign package proposal. And should I present that now?
Let's finish the public hearing.
Okay. That concludes my presentation.
Appreciate that. Okay.
Oh, sure.
Would the applicant like to speak? Yes.
David,
David?
Just a clarifying question. I want to make sure I understood you correctly and make sure the residents that are with us tonight understood you correctly. As it relates to Charles Boulevard, you're saying only the front of the house would be facing, in the back of the house, if there are any bay doors, say in a trade school or scientific research laboratory, et cetera, that you've explained tonight, those would be behind the business.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, if I understand you correctly, you're asking basically what direction the bay doors would face.
And the loading docks and loading activities would be restricted to the back of the house?
Well, we're not really talking about houses in this case.
Sorry, it's a business term, back of the house versus front of the house, sorry.
Sure.
So, like you would think in a hotel, yeah.
Well, yes, the bay doors would not face any of the homes to the south of Charles Boulevard. They would be oriented so that they'd be on the side or facing north. And when it comes to loading docks and things like that, which go along with bay doors, that's the way we would look at it. There's also stipulation contained within the ordinance which requires the developer to minimize the amount of noise spilling into the residential neighborhood, and that can be looked at when the site plans come in and when the plats come in and when the street network is proposed.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Ellingson?
Mayor, members of the council, my name is Jay Ellingson, Suncor Development, 14130 West McDowell Road, Goodyear. Happy New Year. This portion of Palm Valley is probably the most studied and most planned area of all of the master plan. When Suncor bought the property back 21 years ago, this portion of the property was to have been part of the third phase of Pebble Creek development. If you can imagine that this area that would have swung right up into here would have been phase 2 of what would have been Pebble Creek. Because the Air Force was changing aircraft, because the state was becoming more focused relative to Luke and the mission of Luke, and because of our long-term arrangement with Luke Air Force Base in terms of its mission, we spent the last 20-plus years trying to figure out how we could most and best utilize this property and stay conforming to what was originally planned in the master plan. After probably the first rendition of the master plan, it became obvious that we would then change this portion to be in fulfillment of the Luke's mission. That meant that the residential line, if you will, in terms of acceptable and compatibility changed over the years. We lost probably about 300 acres in terms of residential as we dealt with Luke and tried to deal with the compatibility issues. Other than that, all of the phases since then, probably 17 years or so long ago, has showed this area as being light industrial and commercial. The most recent changes that we made to this particular plan came about in realization that although we could have maintained our grandfathered status in terms of the uses that were available to us because the City Council in prior years had approved the master plan as such, we decided to go back in and look at it again for compatibility and also market conditions. And we took out a large area, particularly right in here. I use my pen. It's not as thick. Right in this area that's in the APZ 1 area that was primarily commercial. And so we looked at that and said, that won't work. That's not compatible with the statutes. Although we were grandfathered, although we could have made a statement and an issue out of it, we did not. We didn't think that was in the interest of Luke, us, or the city. And so we changed that area. There was also a continuation of more existing commercial along the Camelback corridor, but as the years have passed and as we've looked at that and more recently reviewed it with our broker community, they have said that Camelback will not become the same retail corridor that it was once envisioned a long time ago. So we made those modifications. In terms of the most recent conversations that we've had with staff, even right before this meeting, we have tried to be sensitive to all of the uses that were not only planned for, but also the residential to the south. We did work out what we thought was a generous setback based on additional setback requirements as we approached a 5-story or 75-foot height, but we found that with the residents' input, that may not have been understood exactly. It was hard to understand that if we changed that and we made it something that was more consistent with what zoning requirements would be, and then give another generous setback for any additional height over 30 feet, that would be easier to understand and more of a buffer to the residential area. In terms of the other issues, buffer for landscaping, we looked at that. On the north side of Charles Boulevard, there's an area that if you count from the curb going north in terms of where the sidewalk and the landscaping will be, there's a 30-foot drainage channel along the whole distance of Charles Boulevard as you go from Falcon Boulevard to Saraville. That setback in terms of that condition is about 57 feet. And then when you get into the site planning of the buildings that would be to the north of that, I could imagine that when staff reviews the site plan again, there will be some additional landscaping that will be required even north of the drainage channel. So,
Jay, where's the drainage channel indicated on this map?
It's not, but I will tell you where the dark line would be approximately in that area.
Okay.
In terms of the uses that we looked at, one of the other things that we didn't speak tonight, but that's in your booklet, is that not only are we have we reviewed this with Luke on several occasions, with every use and every building that we bring forward, Luke has been and will be our first reviewer, if you will, so that they will know the use and the types of buildings that we're bringing forward. That's necessary to, I think, maintain not only our relationship with Luke and Luke's relationship with the city, but to make sure that the mission of Luke is intact and that we don't infringe on that. All of the uses that we're proposing in here have been reviewed in the general categories. Until we're specifically citing those buildings, I can't tell you in terms of the exact height. We do know that in reviewing these height restrictions as we're putting them in here, there will be further review in terms of Luke. Although we say that it could go 300 feet north, it could go up to 75 feet, it may not be compatible with Luke's mission as we move forward. So each building will be reviewed individually. We've agreed to that. The Air Force is still trying to work out some type of a map that we can look at that would be helpful in our planning, but I think for now and until that happens, if it does happen, every building will have to be reviewed on a case-by-case basis. So with that, I'm not sure I've answered all of the questions, but I will tell you that over the years, we have been sensitive to the quality and the sustainability of our neighborhoods. We do not wish to impact beyond what the original plan stated in terms of the uses of this ground. We are puzzled by the lack of communication that has been represented in past meetings in terms of builders not telling the residents in terms of the use. But I'm not sure what we could have done to have made that any different than what it was or is, other than to say it's been available in the last two general plans in terms of the use being called out as light industrial in terms of the majority of the property to the north, and commercial at designated intersections.
Jay,
Yes.
if Falcon Golf Club goes commercial industrial, what impact will that conversion have on the property that although it's in Glendale, what impact is that going to have on your property and the residential area across the Camelback?
Mayor, Councilman Sousa, could you restate that? I'm much clearer.
The Falcon Golf Club.
Yes.
This one that's on Camelback, not
Right.
the one in the northern. Okay. Has been acquired by an industrial group that eventually, at some point in time, probably is going to convert that golf club to an industrial commercial property. What impact do you see if that happens? What effect is that going to have on our property that sits along Camelback Road, which is also your property and our residents?
I don't think that it will have a lot of impact. It's getting closer to Luke, so some of the uses will have to be reviewed in the same character and fairness that we have tried to bring forward. It's competition. You know, it could compete, but they've also got to do a lot of improvements. They also have to shore up their water in terms of a second supply, or if Lipsco serves that area, I'm not sure. It's not part of their CCNM presently, but they could, by an adjacency ruling, they could serve it. So I think over the years, we've seen that in the Luke areas, or in the areas that are impacted by Luke's influence, there's only a number of uses that can be utilized, and industrial is one of them. When we start looking at all of the acreage relative to the time frame that it could be developed, it starts to become decades in terms of who can produce the better quality. You know, from the past, we've been very specific in terms of we want a little bit better than a lot of the surrounding properties. If you look at our first industrial building that's coming up, it's got a lot more detail than you'll find on any other industrial building that I've seen in the metropolitan Phoenix area. So that's how we do it. It'll be competition. How will it compete? We'll have to wait and see. But the ones that we build will be, we think, better architecture and better representation of all the things we've always done in Palm Valley.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Ellington, if you're going to stick around for any further questions? Okay, thank you. And I assume that you are agreeing with the addition of stipulations 33, 34, and 35?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, it's now opportunity for those from the public to speak. Do you have any cards?
Yes, I do.
And would ask that you'd limit your comments, each person, to 3 minutes, if you could, please.
First speaker is Norma Whitaker.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Norma Whitaker. I live at 4368 North 158th Drive. Our property our back property butts up to Charles Boulevard. My husband and I have lived in Glendale for over 20 years, and we moved to Goodyear this past year for the quality of life and what Goodyear has to offer. And I am very pleased after attending these meetings to see that the City Council actually does listen to its citizens. A few of the notes I had here are now evidently going to be redundant because you've already taken care of those with some of the stipulations that have been offered tonight. I do want you to understand, though, that the homes that we have bought were for a substantial amount of money. They were not for reinvestment. They are not for resale. These are our homes, and this does impact our neighborhood. One of the concerns that we have would be the ingress and egress of the commercial traffic in and out of there. When at the zoning meeting that we had gone to where it was rezoned, one of the zoning commissioners, and I honestly do not know which one, answered my question when I asked him about traffic on Pebble Creek Parkway, and he stated that he lived in Pebble Creek and he could assure me that there is no truck traffic on Pebble Creek Parkway. But now I'm seeing that there's a good opportunity for it to be coming through our neighborhood. That was one of our big concerns. The height of the buildings, you have, well, the stipulations have actually done quite well. I am very pleased that you have done that. I appreciate Councilmember Osborne, too, bringing up the single story, as that's what we were restricted to on that. You covered the no loading, the loading and no loading. The one thing I would look at, though, and I would like you to look at, would be the lighting issue that we would have there. And I would like it to be IDA approved, and that is the International Dark Sky Association. They have a great program, and this would limit the intrusion of the lighting from that property into our property, and we'd still be able to have a view of the night sky that we did move out there for originally. My main issues would be the lighting, the noise, the truck traffic on Charles Boulevard, Pebble Creek Parkway. Those are my main issues, and I do appreciate you taking the time to listen to us this evening, and that you have taken the time to have these stipulations worked out ahead of time. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Catherine Monroe.
Mayor and Council, thank you for giving us this opportunity to express ourselves. I have never more profoundly felt appreciation for the chance to voice my opinion. I would like to ask Council to postpone approval of this ordinance tonight. Suncor, as we know, is a fantastic developer and a great neighbor, and we appreciate the type and the quality of work that they have done in Goodyear. However, I do feel that the public notice that has been given is sorely inadequate. At the intersection of Turney and Charles is an approximately 4-foot by 4-foot sign that's set behind the barricades and is the only signage posted in a 1.3-mile strip. That is how I found out about tonight's meeting. I am not within the 500 feet that were notified of this. We have made a grassroots effort to knock doors, and the response from our neighbors has been overwhelming, but it's also been, oh, this Monday night, could we please postpone this so that as a community we can come together and understand better with Suncor what the options are. There's a development in Tempe on Priest and Southern that I truly love driving past because of the landscaping berms that give it almost a golf links appearance. And I feel that there are so many things that we can do to truly beautify this rather than blight our neighborhood. As with the last woman who spoke, we did not buy this house as an investment. We're at a point in our lives where we're hoping to hold on to this house till the children are gone and enjoy it. And we truly need your help in making sure that it's a place we treasure rather than hurt. One last comment I would have, the map that is up. I've looked at that map several times, and I don't understand why the only open space on that map, and if Falcon Golf Course goes away, that was the other open space I was hoping for, but is at the very point of 5. You can't even see it. And maybe if somebody could address why is there not a feeling of open space rather than just this congested industrial. Thank you so much for your time.
Next speaker is Glenn Terry.
Mayor, City Councilman, thank you for this opportunity. I appreciate this chance to speak. I also am a resident of that neighborhood and have the same concerns that have already been addressed here, so I won't be redundant in re-speaking all those same concerns. But I also would like to see more information given out to the residents, and like Luke Air Force Base, I would like to see the residents get a little more opportunity to put input into what is put into this area, because it will have such a drastic effect on our neighborhood that we live in and that we raise our children in. I was a bit confused tonight. I heard somewhere that the setback had to be 30 feet, but when I read it in the book it said 50 feet, and so I still don't feel like I have enough details to really understand much of what's going on in this project.
and I would like to have that opportunity to get more information before this is approved by the City Council. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all the speaker cards I have.
Okay, that's all the speaker cards. Would anyone else like to speak?
Mayor, I just received one from Suzanne McSane.
Good evening. My name is Suzanne McSane, and I'm brand new to the area, brand new to the state, having transferred here from New York. And in New York, I was a zoning planner, so taken back by this a little bit. Some of the comments made by, apparently these are all my neighbors, I haven't met yet. The one I would like to dwell on is the public notification and how that occurred. I'm assuming it was up to code, met the requirements, but I heard earlier at the October something citizens meeting, well, my house wasn't even finished in October, yet I'm directly affected by this. So I think giving the neighbors more opportunity to know what's going on is an appropriate decision I think you have the authority to make tonight. I heard the gentleman from Suncor say he's had the property for 21 years. We're hoping another month or two, isn't gonna be detrimental to, to his ownership and his plans for this development. Some of the setback issues that were talked about are really important, and I think we need to take a closer look at those to make sure that they're addressing the concerns that we have. I took a quick look. I think it was a staff report I was looking at this afternoon, and saw the word deviation in there quite a bit. I'm thinking that's a term that I know as a variance. Typically, when I hear rezoning, I would hope everybody can meet every requirement of the zoning district as the regs are currently written, rather than asking for variances or deviations beyond that. So if, and I could be mistaken again, I have not had time to look at the plan. It sounds like there's not even a site plan developed yet we're continually talking about the Charles Street setback. I don't know if what's being proposed is buildings basically from Camelback continuing south, or if the site plan could be laid out in such a way that the buildings face Camelback, which doesn't have the residential issue. But without a site plan, I think we're at a big disadvantage to try to have this conversation other than to look at the regs. Yeah, I'm hearing about changes to something already, and I'm not quite positive, or if staff can address it at the end, if the change in the building height and the setbacks we're talking about, if that's related to an original plan that was 75 feet or 5 stories, which was just outrageous. I'm not sure if that's what the district would permit as zoned that way, or if that's what Suncor's application came in. If it's how the application originally came in, we're down to 30, and 30 is what's permitted. I'm not quite sure we're any further ahead of the game, so I would like some clarification on exactly what all that is about. So again, just based on the number of people you see here tonight, I think if we all had the opportunity to look at the plan, there may not be as much opposition as maybe what there appears to be right now. We're just uninformed, at least that's how I feel. That's the people I've spoken to feel the same way. We don't know exactly what's being proposed, and we'd like, since the public meeting was back in October, our houses are still being built, yet we're directly affected by it. So I don't think a little bit more time is inappropriate for a project of this scale. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak?
Looks like we have another card. Vic Fimbres.
My name is Vic Fimbres. I do live in the Palm Valley area. My backyard is adjacent to Charles Boulevard. Some of the concerns were talked very lightly about the traffic. Well, working for a distribution center, tractor trailers coming. I don't know the codes off the top of my head. I found out last night as a neighbor came and knocked on my house, said there's a meeting tonight, so that's why I'm here. But what rules, what regulations or stipulations are we going to have to stop the tractor trailers from parking on Charles Boulevard? We know loading can't happen after hours. We all know truck drivers come and park in the wee hours of the morning. To Arizona, it's very hot, so they're going to have their trucks running with their air conditioning on, right on Charles Boulevard. The same Charles Boulevard where my son stands to catch the bus for school. Again, if that's an area of concern, you talk about the pushing it back a little bit farther. So again, if it's a warehouse or general industry, how many people do we plan on working there? So if it's a 300,000 square foot facility, you can imagine there's probably going to be a couple hundred people working there. Those couple hundred people, how are they going to access this property? Charles Boulevard, same intersections where our kids are, waiting for the school bus. Same, how congested is that going to be? Maybe we need to look at alternative route and not have the only access, meaning the only access is through Camelback or through Saraville, to limit the traffic coming through. There's no other way that we're going to be able to stop that. Okay. The height requirements is, again, it's very, very confused on 30 feet, 50 feet, and some of the people said that before. So I would like more information. I know there's a lot of people that wanted to be here tonight, but unfortunately with the short notice and not really knowing about it. And real thankful that our neighbors came knocking on our doors. Did you know what's happening? Did you understand the severity of it? And no, we didn't. So I just wanted to voice my concerns, and thank you for hearing me out.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, my name is Joe Avery. I just moved in here in October 1st, and I heard about the meeting yesterday. Didn't know anything about any of this. I was like a lot of other people when I moved up here. That area was never supposed to be built on, so apparently I was lied to. I'm very upset about it. Dealing with light industrial and heavy industrial my whole life, I'm very concerned about it. There's a lot of industrial parks that I've dealt with over the years, and a nice industrial park you actually drive into. You can drive into a quarter mile, a half mile before you even see a building. So maybe that's something else the city council should think about. Instead of this 300 foot, why can't it be a quarter of a mile in? Something to think about. Thank you very much.
Thank you. For the comment from the public.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Robert Travis. I live at 15686 West Meadowbrook, which is about right there. I am an engineer for ADOT, but again, these are my views only. Want to echo the concerns and comments from earlier, that the original notification I had on this was an actual letter mailed to me back for the October meeting. I had purchased my house in March, talked to several of my neighbors, and only about half of them had received the notices. And I believe a lot of that is, as we're all aware, someone buys a house, it takes a little bit of time to get it recorded, and that's probably the time when the original mailing list for notification happened. I was very instrumental, along with some of my neighbors, of literally doing the initial door-to-door of everyone that lived along Charles with at least backyards that directly face the proposal, to at least notify them what's going on, notify them with Jay's address, notify them of the city planning, so that people can get information. I am very happy and pleased to hear the work that has been going, because again, the initial concern just about all of us had was the proposal of 75-foot buildings. To be very honest, to echo everyone else's concern, we went, what the heck did we just buy? When I talked to my realtor, when I talked to the building developer, they both said, oh no, it's agricultural land, it's going to stay that. I did the research going to the auditor's website. I went to the city website. I did see mention the Palm Valley Master Plan. I did Google search, I did Yahoo search, I did every search I can think of, and I could not find that document anywhere. So when Mr. Ellingsworth came forth and said, by the way, this area is originally grandfathered to be light industrial, I went, since when? If I knew this, to be very honest, and I think a lot of people here would agree, I would not have bought that house with that threat. Working, again, with Mr. Ellingsworth, with the City Council, or with the City Planning Commission and the Planning Department, they have heard our concerns, and again, I want to thank all of them for these additional setbacks, these additional measures they're doing to help protect our living and to protect what we thought was going to be a very nice area. I think it can still happen. Of course, it's not going to be as nice as we were told, But again, it's just the notification so that people can kind of have a say what's happening with their land. Since I sent out these notices to my neighbors, I'm still getting emails almost on a daily basis, again, from people who have just purchased homes and just found out from their new neighbors, oh, did you hear they're putting in light industrial right behind you? And this is something I'd be more than willing to work with this council or with city staff, exactly what the notification was of us when I actually signed for my house. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments?
Mr. Stephen Pohm.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, council members. I want to show you one plan that I received last week.
Could you state your address, please?
I would like to show you one
Can you
plan.
state your address, please, for the record?
Oh, sorry, Stephen Pohm, 1565-2 West Minnesota 8th. I'm sorry for that. That plan I received last week after I talked to my neighbors, also Mr. Travis, and this plan I received from Suncor, which shows their houses that they sell in that Palm Valley Phase 5 area. So our house here is at West Minnesota, in that area here. And as you see, in regarding to that other plan, you don't see any zoning here. The only zoning what is shown is commercial here, and that is the same plan that I got from our builder in July, and also which is an addendum to our deeds and title documents. So we also are a little bit misleaded, and we would like to have some more time to talk with at least Suncor and with your city staff to develop that piece of land in the right direction. And we appreciate what happened since the last stipulations was done, but at least it's not what we think what's right now the development that we need in such a neighborhood, because we all paid a lot of money for our properties. Thank you for hearing me.
Okay, thank you. Further comment?
I just first wanted to thank you for this opportunity to speak today. My name is Keith Bacon, and my residence is 15482 West Montecito Avenue. I relocated from the East Valley. I was born and raised out there, actually in the city of Mesa, and I was really disappointed with what I was seeing in that general city with various lack of zoning and lack of planning. And I think part of that's because of the history of Mesa. So put that aside. When I came out and I experienced the Palm Valley community of Goodyear, I didn't look at it so much as the city of Goodyear. I looked at it more as the master planned community of Palm Valley, and was really impressed with the way that it was planned, basically. And in saying that, I think that a major compliment needs to go to Mr. Ellingson for great planning. I guess the biggest question that I have is that is there anywhere else in Palm Valley that would be similar to what we are seeing here in this one pocket of Palm Valley? If it's not, then it seems like it's a deviation from what was presented to me. That's ultimately my comment.
Okay, thank you. Okay, first off, we do want to thank everyone for the emails that you sent us over the last several days. They were very informative. Some of the issues that were brought up this evening, a couple of those issues have already been resolved through staff and council, and I want to thank the staff for initiating that. And other issues are going to be properly handled during site planning and platting of these particular developments, assuming we get to that stage. Okay, I'm right now going to close the public hearing and ask the clerk to read the resolution by title only. we'll ask for a motion after that, and in the motion, it's important that 33, 34, and 35 be specified. Thank you.
Ordinance 07-1097, providing for conditional rezoning of 1,505 acres of land from the agricultural district to the final planned area development district for an industrial and commercial development known as Palm Valley 303, generally located between Citrus Road on the west, Charles Boulevard to the east and southeast, Thomas Road on the south, and Camelback Road on the north, adopting supplementary zoning map number 06612 to provide for the change in zoning, providing separability, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, thank you. Could I have a motion, please? Lack of a motion, I'll proceed on then. Is there going to be a motion?
I assume we've got to have a motion on the table in order to explore.
We can discuss it without it, but
But it's better to have one.
I think it is better.
Mr. Mayor.
That's how we do it here.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I move to ordinance number 07-1097 regarding rezoning approximately 1,505 acres from agricultural AG zoning district to the final plan area development PAD zoning district Palm Valley 303. I shall move.
Can you
With
get-
the addition of stipulations 33, 34, and 35.
It's presented by the staff.
Mr. Mayor, I'll offer up a second if, in stipulation 30, well, we can come back to an amendment. I'll offer up a second to discuss it.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Souza and a second from Vice Mayor Antoniak. Let me start with Councilmember Souza.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, what concerns me, ladies and gentlemen, is you're stating that you weren't informed.
Mr. Sousa, you might want to lean into the microphone. I don't know if folks with the air conditioning can hear you in the back.
That you weren't informed regarding the meetings that were being held relative to this property, as is governed by the City of Goodyear and our staff. And that bothers me no end. Because when a business such as this nature comes before the council, and when it goes before the public, it is published in all of our local newspapers. Plus, the builders or developers have the requirement that they must post signs throughout the areas being affected. What concerns me is the young lady who stipulated regarding the small sign that appeared relative to this announcing the meeting that was held. However, there were several meetings, or two meetings, I understand, that was held with P&Z relative to this issue before it got here. And of course, those were opportunities, and many of you did voice your displeasures with some of the actions that appeared during the course of that meeting, and rightfully so. I mean, if you don't approve of what's being transpired, certainly you should voice your opinion. Not only to us, but to P&Z and certainly to in the final analysis council, what you're doing tonight. That is a concern for me. I think the issues, there are two issues that you brought before me as I see it, okay? Number one is traffic, commercial property traffic, in and out of that industrial commercial property. The other one would be the lack of information and another fact. How do we have any other property in the city of Goodyear, okay, that is affected along the same lines that we're faced with here? And frankly, the impact here is Luke Air Force Base. I mean, the only thing that can be put into this property because of the accident zone that this property falls into is commercial and industrial from a safety standpoint. If the plane goes down, we don't want citizens to be affected in that particular area. If we have residential areas, that opens the liability up to this city and certainly for the people that are going to be injured by such an event. So as we go out, and we do have a commitment here to Luke Air Force Base to protect their fly zones, and this is a part of the issue here. You are involved in what we have been involved with down since I've been on this council for 9 years now, okay, is making sure that we provide the right thing for the care force base, and that's what we're doing here this evening. That's the reason you're here telling us about these problems. Unfortunately, okay, somebody's been telling you the wrong information. And I don't know who that's been, whether it's your realtor or who it is, but certainly I think it behooves the city to determine where that bad information came from, because that's the next of the problem here, as I see it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Vice Mayor?
Some questions for staff, if you don't mind. I noticed a little sliver of open space, but the comment kind of caught me off guard, so I want to make sure. The requirements for this project, are they similar to what we would see in residential? While we might see a little green sliver, we would also see a spattering of open space throughout the development. Can you maybe elaborate a little bit on the open space requirements for this development?
Sure. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, there is a stipulation that requires that each parcel provide minimum of 15% of open space / landscaping within each project. And there's also another stipulation that requires a minimum 1% plaza-type open space, and these are standard stipulations that we provide for all industrial or commercial developments. So it will happen as each parcel gets developed. The fact that there is a piece down here shown as open space, Mr. Ellingson could probably provide more information on that.
You would be looking to evaluate each and every site plan that comes in to make sure it conforms to open space requirements of the city and open space requirements of the PAD.
That's correct.
Okay. While I'm thinking of it, in stipulation 33, I'll ask Mr. Sousa, if you don't mind, I'd offer up I don't know if there's a friendly amendment that we can do, and if the first and the second agree, and if the applicant doesn't object at this point, I'd like us to specify on stipulation number 33 regarding the lots abutting, that we specify as described on page 9, section 8 of the PAD development parameters and uses that David reflected on this evening. It just clarifies specifically where it came from, so if in 10 years from now we've got a parcel that's being built, that we've got something to go back to.
9I, is that what you're talking about?
It's section H on page 9. It is HAI or 1 or Roman numeral 1. Is that doable?
Sarah, is that okay?
Sarah,
or do you want to substitute?
Do you want a
You could
specific?
stipulate to where you want it in that you're amending this provision.
Do I need to offer a specific amendment that we vote on, or can we procedurally just offer that up and
I'll work on the language. And
Dick and I agree?
Okay. Let's keep going then, and we'll get to that.
The public notice, maybe a lesson learned here for us. We're the ones as a city that require the public notification. The application comes to us, and the applicant in this case fills out what the public notice is and fills out what the requirement, and we fulfill the requirements by ordering a sign from a sign company. And so, regardless of the way the vote is tonight on this one, it would seem appropriate that staff, as we're building out, a 4x4 sign 10 years ago in a vacant parcel was no big deal. You drove by it and all of a sudden there's this white glaring sign to you because you drove by there every day and you didn't see anything. And so now maybe as we're getting into some of these specific areas where we're getting abutting homes and getting closer to homes, that we look at maybe more appropriate signage, if you will. Not saying it was inferior to our code, because our code, I believe the applicant and the city probably met current code, but maybe we need to reflect on that as we're going forward and building out stuff. I imagine somebody down in Estrella Mountain Ranch may reflect later on a grocery store that may pop up, and let's make sure that the signage is appropriate and showing. I heard impact to the neighborhood beyond those two things. I heard impacts to the neighborhood that reflected on lighting, noise, height issues and setbacks, site plan, lack of knowledge of the site plan, the parking on Charles as it related to school bus issues and interaction of trucks, the traffic coming down Camelback. How would we allow or not allow a deviation from the plan. And then obviously, we've got Luke Air Force Base compatibility issues. And I got to tell you, this is one of the hardest pieces of land I think we've struggled with. The mayor taught me a pretty harsh lesson during the general plan as it related to this land. And, if anything, we've got a lot of sensitivity. You all, not blaming you all in this room, but we as Arizona voters passed Prop 207, which even further limited our capabilities as local representatives to enact your wishes upon somebody's land. And so as you look at other things that come to you in November that don't relate or do relate to your day-to-day, that they may perceive to not relate to your day-to-day life, and people may sell you on the fact that you're going to lose your property rights. It also inhibits our abilities as local elected officials on your behalf to limit some of those abilities of the property owner. I will say, as I look at this, I look at that 7 years of knowledge as it relates to the general plan, and I ask myself whether it's compatible with the general plan, whether it's compatible with the land use that Luke Air Force Base restricts in there, and at the same time, or not Luke Air Force Base, but the state restricts on behalf of Luke Air Force Base, as well as we as a local community restrict on behalf of Luke Air Force Base. I look to see whether it complies with that, as well as it doesn't put your taxpayer dollars at risk taking an issue up with a landowner and their own property rights. And so there's a big nexus and a big challenge here for us as local elected officials when you all learn of these issues either late in the game or during the process. So I hope you all understand that if things pass tonight or if things postpone for a short duration, so you can learn more. Either way, understand that we're grappled with these challenges. The height issue, I think I'm satisfied with as it's been described in stipulation number 33. The noise and lighting, I don't know if the applicant would be open to some lighting stipulations within a certain number of feet of the properties, or did we want to address? Do you as an applicant or staff?
We have it. The lady talked about that lighting ordinance, and we have that.
Does it apply to Palm Valley? It does.
Yeah,
okay.
it's there.
Well, I just want to make sure it applies. I was pretty well satisfied on the 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. issue. I think it's going to be mainly back of the house. I don't see a lot of deliveries happening in the front of the house on this issue. Pardon my terminology, but Jay, do you want to address that issue specifically?
Mayor, Councilmember Antoniak, what we did in terms of working with staff was that one of the biggest dilemmas was, okay, what about deliveries? Well, we have now modified in terms of the types of uses that will be permitted along in that 300-foot corridor north of Charles Boulevard. We also have stipulated, by stipulation, it's called out that there will be no roll-up doors that are facing. So in terms of the uses, if you're thinking of an office building or even of a school or a business park or something like that, they can't face. We don't have big trucks delivering. They would be more like local delivery, whatever that would be in terms of classification, to an office or to those types of uses, would come in from the street to the north. So we've also, by the last stipulation in terms of number 35, it's really to the discretion of the city manager according to your existing ordinance in terms of how traffic is delineated and where it's appropriate and where it is not.
Question for staff. When we addressed this issue in Estrella Mountain Ranch, I remember we addressed it about 5 or 6 years ago, right about the time I came on council. We said no truck traffic could go down there. Was that through your office at city manager's level, or did that come to council?
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, I believe that came back for council, talking about where we're going to have our truck traffic, local traffic only. So it was a policy issue.
And that also held for Pebble Creek. So Pebble Creek Parkway had the same issue, and we reaffirmed that issue that night along with Estrella.
Does that apply to Pebble Creek Parkway north of Indian School, that we wouldn't allow truck?
It doesn't apply that far.
Truck traffic?
But it could.
It should be confirmed one way or another.
Yeah,
it could be. Harvey, do you want to clarify that?
Sorry to put you on the spot there, Jay.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, my recollection is we had a, Public Works initiated a traffic impact study, a truck traffic study, and it came back to the council, and there were certain recommendations that came out of that and formulated certain prohibitions and restrictions on roads. And the code reads that the city manager as designee makes that administratively based upon those recommendations, and the council accepted that report, and then Public Works implemented it. In the case of my recollection, there's a list of where trucks are allowed within the city code, and I believe it's, at the time, we didn't envision Pebble Creek north of Indian School. I don't believe that was addressed. It's not addressed in our city code, so we would have to go back and address that north of Indian School, subsequent to the zoning, if it's approved. That's why the stipulation is written in the way it is, because we're not sure what the traffic impact of this project will be based upon the land use mix yet and the circulation plan. So we're keeping it fairly open to give the city manager's office the ability to implement that at a later date.
And does that give the city manager's office the flexibility to say between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. there will be no truck traffic on certain streets, or?
Mayor or Vice Mayor, the city code specifically authorizes the city manager's designee to put place restrictions or prohibitions on roads. Yes, to answer your question, it must be posted, and they can do that, yes. It's just an enforcement matter.
With or without the applicants, with or without the landowners?
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah, it seems to me it would be highly, encourage. I don't know if the rest of the council agrees with me here, but it seems like I would encourage the city manager's office to take a look at Charles Boulevard and see when it's appropriate to be traveling on Charles Boulevard, as well as see what appropriate speeds, if any, exist. I mean, because inevitably you got to get a Staples truck in and out of there potentially. I mean, I understand an 18-wheeler, but you might need it. You might have it just Staples office delivery. Even if I order as a homeowner from Staples, they come to my house. I understand the day-to-day business needs, but I also understand the sensitivity to the truck issue. Furthering that question, truck parking. You want to address that question that was posed to us, Harvey? I don't believe trucks, 18-wheelers, would be allowed to park. I believe we have ordinance that prohibits that anyway.
I believe that's correct. We can prohibit parking as well.
On the street?
On the street, yes. We have that ability to.
Okay. All right. I'm sure I'll have more questions, but
Councilmember Lord?
Thank you. Well, first of all, shame on your sales reps. I was in that business. When they see that on a site plan, they should know better. They should send you to the city, tell you to talk to the officials at the city. Shame on them. Also, I have to put it back on your shoulders. When you purchase something, you are also responsible. So it's the combination of the two of you that could have prevented a lot of this angst that we're hearing tonight. I drove all over your neighborhood this afternoon, and I totally agree with you about the truck traffic on Charles Boulevard and on Pebble Creek Parkway. And in my view, it should be limited so that truck traffic is not allowed. But they go down Indian School to 303 and take it's a matter of 2 minutes more. So that's my feeling. I know that I had a complaint this last year on Bullard, passing Pebble Creek, going south. And I approached Public Works, and they put a sign up there that said no heavy big trucks. I don't remember how they termed it, and it did eliminate a lot of that because people were having trouble going on their patios. I really appreciate your compromise tonight that you came in with, Mr. Ellingson. It was wonderful that you because this is an investment for you, and you have to realize they've been through an awful lot when you purchase a piece of property, and then all of a sudden you have to change everything because of the agreement the city has made with Luke Air Force Base. So they're limited what they can use this property for. And we're certainly not going to fill it up where there's a lot of people on this property because of the danger of the property. So I really do appreciate that. So, and the other thing you need to look at, you could have purchased in a neighborhood where you were looking at the back of somebody's home, a 2-story home, in which somebody could peer out that bedroom and look into your home. And I would say on an office complex, because of the hours that they run, you're not going to have that. So sometimes you think of that as a negative, and it absolutely can become a positive. I think the hours that these buildings will be open, you won't have the noise level you may have with a family of 12 children or 6 children behind you. So there are some positives that can come out of this. And if you will look around Goodyear, we have taken a great deal of time to think about landscaping. And in this particular case, I would say they're going to even take a closer look on how they're going to landscape it. Now, I wasn't too sure, some of you in your comments tonight, are you looking, you don't like a wall being there? You were talking about more space. I couldn't quite understand this, because there will be a wall, there will be landscaping. So there's a great deal of space. When I drove by there tonight and looked, my heavens, that is going to be set back quite a ways. If you drive down Litchfield Road and you look at Suncor buildings, I dare you to come to me and complain at one building they built. They have a quality about them, and that's what they're going to produce in this community. Unfortunately, on this plat, you can't see the park areas. You can't see the gathering spaces that will be in between these buildings. But I have great confidence, well, not confidence, we'll make sure that that happens in the community. So I think that I agree with just about everything everybody said. I just want you to be assured that we do have that dark sky lighting. We passed that ordinance quite some time ago. But basically, my concern was tonight was the height of the building. Thank you. It's 2 stories, and your children and the streets. And so I think we should divert the traffic.
Councilmember Cavalier?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I appreciate everyone who came out tonight and their remarks. I try to put myself in your place, if I were living there, how I would feel about this, and I share my feelings with you. This is important. It's your home, and something we have to look at. I agree with everything that's been said and the changes and everything that the city said they could make in adding the new stipulations. I want to make reference to a couple of other things that haven't been addressed. One is Luke Air Force Base, and I'm reading this letter from Luke Air Force Base. And this is from James Mitchell at Luke Air Force Base. Mr. James Mitchell is the Director of Community Initiatives. And the second paragraph, talks about 75 feet high structures may negatively impact flying operations at Luke Air Force Base. However, structures located east of the APZ-2 along south side of Camelback could be located too close to Luke Air Force Base. On the last paragraph, he states that please note that construction plans and oversized construction equipment, this property may be influenced by requirements from the FAA and may require submittal to FAA. There's a lot of might and may in here from Luke Air Force Base that doesn't tell me that it reflects the paragraph that was written by staff on in the COAC, where it states that these stipulations and these things have been addressed. I feel that we can't afford to lose Luke Air Force Base, and I think this has a big impact on it. I'm very concerned about this, because this letter doesn't tell me that it's okay for us to build on this. It says it might be, and it needs to be looked into more. So there's no definitive feeling about this, and as far as I'm concerned, that's one area. The other thing is what was brought up by 2 other members of this council, and that is, I remember when we approved this residential area, and I remember the comments, and I remember what was said. We said, yes, this is going to be an industrial area, and yes, it's the only thing that could fit in here, that would work in here because of Luke Air Force Base, and that the seller of these properties would make certain that you had signed off on something that stated you knew this was there and that the industrial property was there. And from what I'm hearing from all the residents who are sitting here, you didn't receive anything from the salespeople to tell you that this was industrial property. It isn't Mr. Ellingson's fault. It's the people who sold you the property. This is wrong. because we stipulated that at that council meeting. I remember that distinctly. There were 2 items on there that, in fact, I think I made the statements, and I'm sure that Vice Mayor Antoniak also made these statements. One is Luke Air Force Base with the noise, and the Luke Air Force Base being close by was one thing that they should sign off on, and the other was the fact that this is industrial, light industrial, or whatever industrial area we approved. And I would be surprised if it wasn't in the minutes. But I remember that being stated at the council meeting. So again, evidently this, what we're saying in council meetings isn't enough. We need to make statements, and we need to make certain that these realtors are giving you written statements that you sign off on, and they're not doing that. So I have some concerns with this, with those 2 areas, along with everything else that's been said. And my feeling tonight is that, yes, we do need some more time on this, staff needs some more time on this, and I think it should be tabled.
Councilmember, read stipulation number 15 in the co-op.
Yes, I know it does. I saw that.
Well, that statement appears in every deliberation that we make. And let me read it for you, if I may.
Yeah. Go ahead.
This is stipulation 15. The owner developer shall acknowledge and disclose to any subsequent purchaser or tenant that the subject property is subject to attendant noise, vibrations, and all other effects that may be caused by overflights and by operation of aircraft landing at or taking off from Luke Air Force Base and or the Phoenix Goodyear Airport. The owner developer shall provide for a waiver agreement for any subsequent purchaser to sign, which shall run with the land and which shall include the following statement. The subject property is subject to attendant noise, vibrations, and all other effects that may be caused by overflights and by operation of aircraft landing or taking off from Luke Air Force Base and or from the Phoenix Goodyear Airport. The purchaser does release and discharge the city of Goodyear, the owner and developer, from any liability, from any claims for future damages and complaints of any kind to persons or property that may arise at any time in the future from the operation of such aircraft near or over the area. Now, that stipulation was put in every one of the coax that this council approved.
But is it, here's the problem, is it going to these people when they purchase their property? And are they signing off on that? That's my question.
It should become a part of the title report.
It does.
And so,
But it goes more than just the noise attenuation, it's more than that.
It doesn't say anything about the industrial.
I know it doesn't.
That's what you're stating. So, but it does address that part.
But this is the property we're talking about.
Anyway, that's...
Mr. Ellingson, could you respond on the issue about contacting or response from Luke Air Force Base?
Bob Dubsky was here. I'm still here. Mayor, members of the council, I will not speak directly for the Air Force. Bob Dubsky is here, but stipulation 30, Councilmember Cavalier, in terms of what their letter says and what they're agreeing to in terms of the process of review is covered there. It's also covered in our parameters booklet in terms of their opportunity to review every use, every building before it's built. So,
as I said, I don't feel that this is necessarily your fault. This is something that's, the process is fault.
Except, Councilor, you know, they don't know what business is coming in and how that building will be. They have a guideline and how they want the building, but the individual comes in, says he wants to open his business. You say, okay, this is the plat. You can design your building here. So you can't get there from here. You have to wait to that, but you do have guidelines about the height, and, I mean, they know what they can do.
But they were not aware that this was even going to be zoned industrial, they were told it would stay this way because it's the Air Force.
I don't think
65.
I don't think contractually they have to tell them about that neighboring property. At least, I'm just saying from my
I
background.
think, Mr. Owens,
Yeah.
Mayor, members of the council, we're kind of talking about two different things. I was trying
Oh, shut
to
up.
address the issue relative to whether Luke gets proper review and notice for any development within the property. I think that's what you said, and
that was your question.
Yes. And so I think that this is clarified in terms of the stipulation, in terms of they do have another review process in terms of this procedure. In terms of the zoning, yes, they have been notified in terms of what our direction has been in terms of general use of the property by zoning.
Yes, and I understand that, because I just wanted to point that out, because the terms might and may were used in the letter, and that meant that it would come up later.
Yes.
In specifics.
And that's why it's stipulated the way it is, so that might and may be reviewed individually.
And I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you.
And vetoed by Luke Air Force Base.
And vetoed.
Yes.
Yeah. Hopefully we can
Or
work that
FAA.
out. Yes, it could be.
Yeah.
Okay, Councilmember Cavalier, is there any reason for what you just heard? Is there reason to delay this? Do you feel that? Because of this particular subject? What do we gain by delaying it for this reason?
Well, it's not the reason for delaying it is not because of Luke, but mostly it's the traffic and the distance, because there is confusion about the distances and the open space between the homes and the property, the areas where there isn't any open space, where the buildings will be just the office buildings or whatever they're going to be. Because in one place here it states 30 feet, another place here it states 50. I'm not sure this doesn't come together. And anyway, that's my feeling is I think it needs to be tighter, it needs to be put together more tightly and reviewed and brought to us again. Also, I'm not too happy with your silos. Those things are going to stand up and look. You're talking about height. You've got a silo standing. I just don't. To me, it isn't appealing, and especially when we're talking about height concerns of the residents next to you. So I just thought I'd throw that architectural design on that, and give you a little more harassment over that. But I don't know what to say about it, except that there's some height standards there that the silos.
It's not a zoning issue right now, though.
No, it's not a zoning issue.
We try to stay to zoning. I know it's hard to do that.
The sign package will come back to us later, right?
The sign package is here.
Councilmember Osborne?
Thank you. I just wanted to state that I think the key word here that Rob did state earlier is sensitivity. Sensitivity to residents, sensitivity to Luke Air Force Base, and sensitivity to a landowner that has every reason and every right to want to develop on his land. But how do we tie all those together to make everybody happy? I really think that, and I give a lot of credit to staff and to Mr. Ellingson today to try to bring those last issues that I'm certainly happy that our residents brought to us and said, hey, the height, the setbacks, the landscaping, talk to us, hear us. And I really appreciate that, because I really think that everybody came together and really tried to do that. The only reason I had considered tabling it was the fact that I did hear from our citizens that many of them are still a little confused, a little uncertain of what does this mean. Lay it out. Can we talk one-on-one a little more? I know that they've been given 3 times now to express their feelings, but sometimes in this atmosphere, it's not as easy as if it was in the local school with Jay and staff and whoever to really sit down and understand a little better. A little hand-holding always helps sometimes. I would be perfectly willing to present to ask Jay, to ask council,
if we were to say, give them 2 more weeks, give them a month, let them come back and say, you know what, we explained it better, everybody understands now, please move forward. I'm very happy with these last 3 stipulations. I think that the only thing, and I know other ones have stated it, was about the truck traffic. I believe that we've all come to a conclusion that nobody wants it there and that we can fix that. But that's kind of where I sit, because I think that really there's been a lot of discussion here and a lot of trying to make everyone happy. And by the way, I think the silos are pretty innovative. Yes. Okay.
Councilmember Holland?
It's always tough to be last. Pretty much everything's been said. Just want to say how much we appreciate you guys coming, and we like to be known as the council that listens to its people. I think the stipulations that have been put in will solve a lot of the problems that we were concerned about. And also, I think the biggest issue for me has been the lack of your salespeople giving you the information that you needed, or you're not being able to sign saying that you understand what that land is going to be used for. And we have run into this before, where we had to go back and insist that the people that were selling the property were was at least identifying the issues and letting their folks sign off on it as part of their title package, their closing, that they were very much aware of it. So I can't add anything else to what has been said, but again, thank you very much, and Ms. Ellingson, always a good job. So, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, could I make a final comment?
Yes.
You referenced it earlier. You're not done with me, even tonight, if this passes tonight. In terms of the planning process, there's other things that can be then looked at closer in terms of some of the things if they're not addressed already. So I don't know that the citizens all understand that in terms of I wish I were done and that everything was finalized, but that's not the process. So they will get another opportunity. We're still available in terms of meetings, and I will tell you that the size of this property is such that even if I wanted to develop it all within the next year or two, it won't happen. This is a couple of decades, I would imagine, in terms of development. Some of you will probably not still be residents when we do develop along Charles Boulevard.
Thanks, Jay.
Or alive.
I didn't say in terms of your status, in terms of your life's tenure. I didn't say that. I said
You want the meals
being
and
that
the hammer
people.
an hour later.
It's because we're such transient.
Who else? Any other comments, or everybody on this?
I just want to say, I think all the issues that have been raised tonight, ladies and gentlemen, can be resolved as this moves forward. We're not going to leave you in the lurch. This council is not going to do that. The issue on traffic, that can be taken care of at a later date. The issue on noise, that when it occurs, we can approach that issue at that particular time. So this council will be with you through this process, and as we have in all the processes that we've had coming through this council since I've been here for the past 9 years. And I don't think we've, in that time, that we've treated anybody or any segment of our population unfairly, frankly. And we won't do that to you either. It's not from my standpoint anyway. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Antoniak.
Yeah, I failed to remark in my first one, but, I got to tell you, thank you, residents, for coming out. I think you're the most polite group of opposition we have ever faced.
I'd like to applaud them, frankly.
In this council. I mean, right down to the golf clap. I mean, there was no cheering or screaming or anything. So I got to tell you, I'm proud to say that you're fellow residents, and I mean, when I see a flurry of emails like I did over the weekend, I think for sure we're going to have yellers and screamers all night long. And
we even had a baby.
and they yelled and screamed about the future bus stop. But No, I sincerely, I hope you all feel like you're being listened to right there. I mean, even our staff prepared a great memo this evening coming in that detailed all of your discussion over the weekend via our council address, so we really appreciated that. You know, I too am tempted, I was tempted to postpone this coming into it this evening. I'm not too sure that we're going to resolve the specific issues, and Mr. Ellingson does make a very, very valid point for you all as residents. We have a pre-plat and a final plat, and even if you're larger than I forget, a certain number of square feet, and it'll be germane to my next request from staff, site plan's got to come back to us if it's over a certain amount of square feet. And so there's a number of different points in this process going forward over the next several years and even decades, as Mr. Ellingson described, that you're going to have an opportunity for input. My request of staff, as it relates to that input, is what I would like to see, and if there's common direction from us on council, is a detailed letter from coming out of the manager's office or Mr. Krause's department that details to each and every one of these residents here this evening that have signed in, even maybe using Mr. Travis as a conduit to his neighborhood, for a letter to go out to those folks that are concerned, detailing what points in that process, this point forward, that y'all have impact on. Because I think it is important to educate every one of you as well as your neighbors and give you that ammunition that you're armed with as you go about your business and reflect on this evening's meeting. So I don't know if anybody else feels that way, but I'd personally like to see that as follow-up following this meeting. Last point, you know, the truck traffic, is there, can we stipulate further on the truck traffic as it relates to Charles? I mean, I didn't realize we had school bus routes going through there, and I dropped my kid off as early as 10 to 7 for her school bus to get to school. I can't only imagine how early you all have to, because I know you're going to the same school my kid's going to from much farther away. But is there some, or I always hesitate, does staff have enough direction here to make it very stringent? Because a year from now, a truck will drive down that street and they'll say, well, you didn't put a stipulation in. But is there something that you all chewed on at staff level in terms of a more stringent truck stipulation?
Well, these are some of the things the reason I want this thing tabled is because I don't think we have tied all the knots. We haven't tightened everything up. We don't. I don't think the people here are satisfied.
We have time to tie them all up.
Before we debate whether we've tied them all up or not, can I ask staff if did you contemplate that? Did you come up with any language with Mr. Ellingson related to that?
Mayor, Council, Vice Mayor Antoniak, I wasn't involved in specific discussions with Jay Ellingson on the traffic issue and limiting truck traffic at this point in time. However, I think, at least I understand direction pretty clear, and assume the city manager does, that we do want to limit truck traffic along there. We just didn't feel comfortable at this point in time making specific recommendations without knowing a little bit more information. What we have here is a conceptual land use plan. So this roadway network is conceptual, so there's going to be platting and the roadways going to be designed within there. So that may impact where trucks will go, and we can limit penetrations of streets onto Charles. So at this point in time, I thought it was somewhat premature to make that kind of a recommendation, and kept it more broad to allow administratively to implement restrictions.
With that in mind, would you object to stipulation 35 adding some language about truck traffic would be readdressed during the pre-plat and final plat period?
I don't have a problem with it because it is anyway.
Yeah, that's what I was going to
It is
say.
All right. Well, as long as it's going to come back, I want folks to make sure they walk out of here and understand we're not going to forget about that issue. So, okay.
Okay.
Mayor,
Yes.
one. Jay, could you give us the time frame on when you think the next meeting would come up that could be open to the public? And I'm kind of stretching you a little bit here, but maybe some idea.
How do I answer that? Mayor, Councilmember Holland, my crystal ball isn't working really well in this economic downturn, and I'm not trying to be evasive of the question. We are presently developing only in phase one as represented on the map itself. In terms of the other things, in terms of development, really to bring the development north of Charles Boulevard is going to take some effort in terms of utilities being extended. I don't see that happening within the next couple of years, maybe not as many as 5 years. I don't know. But I can tell you the focus is going to be along the commercial, on Indian School, Phase 1 and Phase 2. We're also looking at some major users in Phase 6. That's really what's driving this in terms of the overall zoning. Also, with the idea that in its present form with agricultural zoning, it's non-compliant with the state statute. You could do residential in ag zoning, 1 house per acre, and that's to nobody's desire. So the zoning was, twofold. One is to put on paper what the uses could be in terms of compatibility with Luke, to avoid the issues that now exist with the current zoning. The other part of it is that we need to make sure that we have the zoning in place to be able to utilize some of the users that have been in the marketplace that we've missed already in terms of major users that could have gone into Phase 6.
Okay. And I guess what I was trying to deal with was the folks that are in here, when is their next opportunity to hear what's come out of all of the questions that...
Now, I can't address that kind of in a general answer, which would be any of the subdivisions that are adjacent, what will be platted as subdivisions adjacent to their properties will come through the public review process again a couple of times.
All right. So they have an opportunity coming up to hear some of this information again. And what could you just generally, are we talking 6 weeks, 2 months, 3 months?
It's going to be, I think, a couple of years or longer.
You still think
in terms of those properties that are adjacent to their households that they have most sensitivity to.
Okay, yeah, because I think that's kind of what they were looking for, was when are they going to hear some of the results? Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Lord?
Just to review this with you, you do realize when you leave here today that this is going to be what it is. Whether you come back a second time or a third time or fourth time, it is what it is. So I don't want you to leave here today thinking, aha, we made a step forward, this is not going to be a commercial area. It is. But what you have affected, and a great deal by all your comments is to make sure that every portion of this that is developed is the best of the best. And that will be his assurance, because that's what they do.
Not only my assurance, but also what standards I'm being held to by the city.
By the city, absolutely.
Further comments from council? Sir, could you confirm that motion for us?
Sure, I've written something out if somebody wants to.
And Councilmember Souza, would you advise that this is the motion as you want?
Oh, you want? No.
I'm sorry, I don't know.
No, that's okay.
Mayor, I just, one of the issues that was outstanding, I just wanted to clarify the setback issue, because I think there was some ambiguity about setback, and I wanted to maybe, hopefully, put some clarity to it, or some, I know it's confusing. There's two, first of all, I think one of the speakers talked about deviations in the zoning. We are deviating, but we're deviating from the standard of making it more restrictive than the underlying zoning. So in a PAD, we create a new zoning ordinance. So if we held them to what is known as the industrial standards, it would be a lot more lenient. They would have a maximum of 40 feet in height and a lot less of a setback. So what we're doing is increasing the setback in two different areas. So just to lay the groundwork there, so we're being more restrictive. We have two areas that we're talking about. This area right here, most of the property abuts Charles Boulevard, which is a major collector. It's 84 feet wide. The collector is 84 foot wide. So the residential properties are south of the right-of-way with a wall, and then most of them have 20-foot backyards. And then in this particular, just this one small area, the residential property actually abuts the industrial property. So we're talking about setbacks in two different areas. So in the case of where Charles Boulevard abuts the new zoning, I like examples. So if you have a 30-foot high building, it'll be a minimum of a 30-foot setback from Charles Boulevard. The drainage channel is approximately 30 feet. There may be additional, but this is the minimum. And then along the where the residential property abuts the industrial property, and if you have a building over 30 feet, it'll be a minimum of 50-foot setback. So we have an extra protection layer in this area. So that's just to clarify. So in the terms of this area where Charles Boulevard is, so if you have a 30-foot building, it'll be 30 feet. If you have a 40-foot high building, which is the maximum, it'll be at least 65-foot setback. If you have a 65-foot setback here and at least 50 here if it's, 50 here if it's 30, and if it's a 40-foot high building, it'll be 65 feet. So that far exceeds what our zoning, what the underlying zoning ordinance is. So
That's from the property line.
That's from the right-of-way line, which is synonymous to the property line.
Correct, yeah. And then you have a street that is
84-foot wide right-of-way, which in the right-of-way you have the sidewalk, the landscaping, and then the curb and gutter and the pavement. Does that help?
That helps.
Thank you, Phil.
That wasn't clear up till now.
Yes.
Mayor, just if I can clarify, the way I understood the motion to be made was it was to approve and adopt Ordinance 07-1097 as follows. As read by the clerk and amended as follows. Stipulation 33, amend PAD for Palm Valley 303, Phase 4 that are within 300 feet of the north right-of-way line of Charles Boulevard or on lots abutting any residential lot in Palm Valley Phase 5 shall be limited to 2 stories or 40 feet in height, specifically as described on page 9, section H of the PAD development parameters and users. Further amending the PAD.
Excuse me, Rob.
Yeah. Go ahead. Am I missing something?
Antonia, I put it in subsection G, which deals with building heights, as opposed to H, which deals with setbacks.
Subsection G. Gotcha. Okay.
Because they have a specific section in there that addresses building heights.
So to restate, that's my apologies. Paragraph G to add subsection E, building height limitation, to stipulation 33. And then stipulation 34, as was presented by staff on the Elmo earlier, and addressing land use compatibility, and stipulation number 35 related to the truck traffic that was presented on Elmo. That's our overhead, folks, for those of you that don't know. Earlier. That's the way I understand it.
No, that's an amendment?
No, I'm just making sure I understood.
Do we make that the main motion, or do I need to do the amendment and then get back to the main motion?
I think we already have a motion pending, so you'll have to move to amend.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll move to amend the motion as read earlier to amend stipulation 33 to add paragraph G, subsection E, building height limitation. Right? Just addressing stipulation 33, or you need 33, 34, and 35? All three.
You're going to add all three.
Amend it.
Well, you could just amend it and to include the stipulations, but my understanding is that you want to make clear that we're amending the PAD zoning, which is in section 11. So I did it as you would amend section 4, phase 4, paragraph G to add subsection, and then it would be how, if you were to redo this whole thing, how it would fit into here. But you could do it either way. You get the same result.
You're totally confused.
Yeah. We've got the motion on the table, which addresses ordinance 07-1097.
Yes. Then you want it as amended to either include all of stipulations 33, 34, and 35 as read.
That's what I understood.
You don't really need to refer back, but my understanding is you wanted to refer back to the section in the PAD.
Yeah, I just thought that was understood, that you would mention the section in the PAD.
Mm-hmm. But you could, exactly as you read is fine.
Is it making sense to you?
Not really.
No, it isn't. Makes no sense.
Councilmember Souza made a motion, basically.
It's procedurals.
approving the resolution as read by the clerk and adding the 3 stipulations. And that was pretty clear. And that is the main motion, and that was seconded. Now, you want an amendment to that motion.
Okay, then I'll amend, I'll offer up an amendment to the motion to add specifically paragraph G and subsection E to stipulation 33, addressing building height limitations. Is that?
To add subsection, or to add stipulation 33, to amend the PAD for Palm Valley 303.
I guess I don't want to muddy it up. I mean, I think you addressed it in stipulation number 33. Thank you, Gary. I appreciate that. Gary Gelzer, our 8th member of council. But I specifically wanted you to note the subsection that addressed it in their PAD design guidelines, or whatever it was.
So then what you would do is
Muddied it up.
to amend the motion as read, but with respect to stipulation 33, designate that it amends section
H, required setbacks is what I was reading.
Yes.
I was reading
Section 4 of the Palm Valley 303 PAD development plan to add a subsection E to paragraph G.
Is this?
It's not.
I don't-
I'm fine.
yeah, I
I'm
think
fine.
it's just to provide
Early
more
on, I wanted to
information,
make sure it was
clarification,
specific. Let's
right?
just vote on the main issue.
Yeah, I think it's a clarifying
I'll
thing.
call the question your motion on the table then. How's that sound?
Okay. Well, I think we're trying to clarify things, and maybe we're not clarifying them at all. David, I think we understood what you said up there, so we're good. So I have a motion on the table by Councilmember Souza, and I have a second from Vice Mayor Antoniak. Further discussion on the motion?
Mayor, since in my mind, it's not clear, I will be voting against it.
Okay? Okay, could I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Osborne.
Aye.
Councilmember Holland.
Aye.
Councilmember Lord.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Antoniak.
Aye.
Councilmember Sousa.
Aye.
Councilmember Cavalier.
Nay.
Mayor Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Passed 6-0. 6-1.
6-1. Okay, and we thank all the residents for coming out this evening. You have made a difference, and you will continue to make a difference as we do the site planning and the plating. Let's take a break.
Please.
How about 8:20? Is that all right?
Yes.
David, you're up, I think.
I don't like myself. I don't like yourself. We always do.
We're on 8B. We'll now consider the approving comprehensive sign package for Palm Valley 303.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor and members of the council.
David, speak up.
Yeah, we really have a hard time hearing.
The applicant is requesting approval of a comprehensive sign package for all of Palm Valley 303. Included with the request are various monument signs which will identify the project. You may have noticed that 4 freeway pylon signs are included in the comprehensive sign package, but they are not included as part of this request, and there is a stipulation that clarifies that. A special use permit will be required for those signs before they can be approved. Staff supports the request and believes that the proposal is appropriate for development of this type, and this concludes my presentation.
Opportunity for the applicant.
Mayor, members of the council, comprehensive sign package has taken a long time in terms of the deliverance of this particular product. We do take great pride in it from the standpoint of what it is, the agritextural is something different. We wanted to make a tie with the past. When we went through the general plan this last time, we were asked in terms of trying to tie the community from past to present. We thought that using the agricultural theme and then using as monumentation would be a good tie from past to present. And so that's what it was done deliberately. I will tell you that although we are not considering the freeway signs tonight in terms of approval, we wanted to make a representation to make sure that you understood that in terms of something in the family of the same type of architecture and theming would be presented so that you would know that it was not a void in that particular document. Because of the requirement in terms of a special use permit, we're still trying to decide whether it would be better to wait until we have users to identify the locations of the sign. So we will get back to you on that particular issue in terms of when we do that. We are very happy and enthusiastic to make this presentation to you and hope that you will see in terms of our level of commitment to detail that we're very serious about the consideration of this comprehensive sign package. Thank you.
Thank you. Opportunity for anyone from the public who would like to address this subject. Seeing none, could I have a motion, please, from council?
Yeah, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that council approve comprehensive sign package for Palm Valley 303 as written by the recommendation in the COAC.
And I'll second it.
I have a motion from Councilmember Cavalier and a second from Councilmember Holland. Open for discussion. We'll start with over here with the motion maker and the seconder.
At this point, I think I'll pass because there's, I think I have to respect what Mr. Ellingson is trying to do, and so I'd like to give it some more thought. Besides, this is not the final word on what the sign will be, so I'll pass that on.
Okay.
No comments.
Over here.
I think the silos are innovative. I'm assuming they are non-functioning silos. They're just facade. Okay. I would suggest that because of the size of this area, that you will probably at some point want to come to us with a cellular tower, and I'd like it to be hidden inside that silo. So just to give you a thought of what it could be used for. The monument signs, your guidelines are good. However, being the hater of pylons and the fact that you've come to us with 4 distresses me greatly. I know you don't want us to consider that part, but you have it within your document, and I can't approve it with it in your document. And even if we discussed fewer signs, I have to tell you, I'm not a fan of your pylon. I think all the other signs are fine. It's the actual three-way pylon I don't like. So I don't know how else, unless we say, take out page blank, 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 to remove the pylons out of it. Everything else is okay.
Okay. Yes, sir. You want to respond to that?
Mayor, Councilmember Osborne, is it the fact that we have too many, or you just don't like it?
It's both. I don't like, this one is not, there have been many other pylons that, even though I don't like pylons, they are at least more attractive than this one is. It's not attractive to me. And now you've complicated it by bringing me wanting 4, and so I just can't.
All I can do is address the idea, again, they're within the same direction and family in terms of the rest of the signage and monumentation. In terms of remember, in terms of retail users, they don't function without signs, so.
Well, I guess I can argue that too. I'll just leave it at that.
But we're not here to have you approve that.
Well, I understand, but it's part of this whole package. That's where it...
You can take it out or you can not. It really doesn't matter because you're going to have to address it through a special use permit anyway.
All right.
When will it be,
Again, Councilmember Souza, we don't know yet because we don't have a user in hand. We could come back and say maybe we only need 3.
I finally got a companion on this council. I'm leaning this way. I like the silos.
I will tell you, there are retailers you will not get if you don't have that signage. So
Okay, I can't talk about this at this particular time, but I certainly will when the time comes.
That's
up.
fine, and we're all for
Use an
that.
example.
We just represent at that point what the requirements are for the retail user.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Lloyd?
Other than to say I love the monument sign, I think it's very creative. My daughter's visiting, she's a graduate in architectural design. She thought it was innovative.
You're good? Yeah. Further comments? Vice Mayor?
I think I'll echo the compliment on the silo. It makes me think of driving into DC Ranch, which is a nice element down here. So it is. It's very different and exudes. I like the historic reference and with the new appeal.
Okay. Is there a desire for an amended motion? Councilmember Osborne.
No, I'll have to see it again. So.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, 7-0.
I didn't say. The motion, sorry, I was out. The motion on the table is to approve the sign package?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm in favor. Just want to make sure.
Okay. All right. We'll now move to consider adoption of resolution to negotiate the acquisition of property interests needed for development of Bullard Avenue. And if I might add a point for the record, that City Attorney Gerard Massey was replaced by Sarah during the first 2 items, not just the first, but first.
Okay, we had that noted.
Okay.
Mayor Kavanaugh, council members, I'm glad to be in this role as opposed to that role over there. And of course, it would be one of the more hairy items. I've been asked to present this COAC.
Sarah, can you push the microphone?
Sorry. I've been asked to present this COAC on behalf of the engineering department because it has to do with legal proceedings and contract negotiations and condemnation. As part of the Goodyear Sports Recreation Campus project, the city will be extending Bullard Avenue south from Yuma Road to Estrella Parkway. For circulation purposes, engineering would like to see Bullard Avenue connect to Elwood where it feeds into, on the other side of Estrella is Elwood. When connecting the Elwood Street, after we did the engineering design work for the road, connecting Elwood Street would require the acquisition of approximately 1.21 acres of property that is located at the site where Incement is located. We have talked to the property owner after a lot of trouble to find a property owner. We've identified and located the property owner. We've been in contact with both the property owner and the tenant, Incement, which is owned by a company called Alaris, just to let them know what our plans were. However, to acquire them, we've had to go out and get an appraisal so we understood what the fair market value of that property would be. The appraisal's been completed, and now we are looking for authorization to proceed with the acquisition of this 1.21 acres. With this COAC, staff's asking council to approve Resolution 081216, which authorizes staff to move forward with the negotiations for the acquisition of the property for the fair market value, which is at $265,000 for the 1.21 acres. And should we not be able to acquire the property for that particular amount and have to move forward, authorization to proceed with the condemnation and acquire the initiate a condemnation action and to acquire the property through a condemnation process. Although that will get us the property, we will have to come back to council because there is a tenant there. We don't know what the tenant's operations are or the lease. We haven't been able to locate a copy of the lease. So there may be some severance damages from our taking that 1.21 acres of land. We do know that we're going to have to move a fence. I think there's some utilities that will have to be relocated. So there will be some additional monies coming from this or needed for this project, but we'll have to touch base with council again once we have a better idea what that money is and what those damages are. And we don't know if Incement or Alaris is going to claim any kind of severance damages. I think that will require code going out and looking to see if they have to move any of their operations or relocate anything. And obviously, if our acquisition causes them additional costs because we're saying you have to move this pile over here because it's too close to our roadway, we'd be responsible for that. So we would be coming back to council for any kind of severance damage if it was a negotiated settlement. Otherwise, it'll be determined in the condemnation action. And the money from this project is part of the PIC bond and the proceeds for the Goodyear Campus Recreation Project.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from the public? Public comment? Okay, seeing none, ask the clerk to read the resolution by title only, please.
Resolution 081216, authorizing the acquisition by negotiation or condemnation of property interests needed for the construction of Bullard Avenue as part of the Goodyear Sports and Recreation Campus project.
Could I have a motion to approve the resolution?
I move we adopt Resolution 081216 as read by the city clerk.
Second. I have a motion from Councilmember Lord and a second from Councilmember Souza. Open for discussion. Councilmember Souza?
What is the relationship of this property to Incement? What?
Incement is the tenant of Alaris Corporation, which owns Incement. So Incement's a recycler down off of...
This is the tail end of the Incement property? Is that
Yes, it's at the tail end of the ballpark. And the property that we'd be requiring, this is how Bullard Avenue would be realigned and highlighted in yellow as the 1.21 acres where, because to curve it and connect to Elwood, we eat into their property.
Do we know what we're looking for from them, from a cost standpoint? What do they want?
There's an appraisal out, right?
Well, we have an appraisal. We haven't...
$265,000.
$265,000. We haven't begun negotiations. We came to council first to make sure that we had the authority to move forward with the negotiations. We've talked to them to let them know what we were going to do, so it wasn't a big surprise. Plus, we had to have people out there to conduct the appraisal.
Okay, thank you. On this side? Vice Mayor?
Who's going to be, I may have missed this during your discussion, but who's going to be responsible for rebuilding the wall that exists on the property?
If it's torn down because of our acquisition, we would.
So will it be, it'll be on,
And I
we'll be
think-
responsible and control the rehab of the wall? The reason I ask this is, I mean, is it going to be on our right-of-way? Is it going to be within our right-of-way now? We're moving the wall within our right-of-way? Or is it going to be?
No, it'd still be within their right-of-way. It would be on their property.
They will, okay, ask this another way. As a stipulation of the sale of their land or part of the proceedings that may occur as you talk to them, they will be required to put a wall back up. It's a better way to ask that.
Yes.
Because of the visual going down Estrella Parkway.
Yes,
is what I'm
yes,
concerned.
yes, the fence or the wall will be replaced, one way or the other. Either we'll do it through the severance damages, or they'll do it, and we'll pay for it.
Okay, thank you. All right, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Holland?
Aye.
Councilmember Lord?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Antoniak?
Aye.
Councilmember Sousa?
Aye.
Councilmember Cavalier?
Aye.
Councilmember Osborne?
Aye.
Mayor Kavanaugh?
Aye.
Passed 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move to D, consider adoption of an ordinance rezoning properties at the northeast corner of Western and Litchfield Road from PFD to final planned area development. Katie Wilkin.
Thank you, Mayor Kavanaugh, members of the council. This is a city-initiated request to rezone 3.05 acres. The agenda shows it's 2.66 acres. We had to make a slight adjustment to the maps after the Planning and Zoning Commission. I believe the staff report does reflect the 3.05 acres, though. It's just the agenda that's incorrect. This is located at the northeast corner of Litchfield Road and Western Avenue. It includes the alley that separates the residential from the commercial area and the entire commercial area in that corner. The site includes the original City Hall, which is the police substation and dispatch center, Public Works Administration, Hope Closet, Casa Linda Furniture, and an income tax preparation business. The site is surrounded by the historic Goodyear residential neighborhood to the north and east, Goodyear Tire and Gooddale True Value to the south, and the Goodyear Southwest Center to the west. The site is currently zoned Public Facilities District, which allows facilities operated by the government or school districts. The site appears to have been zoned Public Facilities District since the incorporation of the city. The commercial uses on the property are currently considered legal nonconforming uses. The legal nonconforming status of these businesses allows them to continue to operate as is, but significantly limits or prevents their expansion or redevelopment. So for an example, if an owner wanted to put a new commercial business in a vacant building, the zoning would prevent that from happening. The PAD permits uses similar to C2 commercial uses, but they're tailored to fit the unique character of the Western Avenue district. The PAD also allows the same uses that are allowed in the Public Facilities District so that the city's facilities can continue to operate as conforming uses. The Western Avenue PAD sets development standards that correspond to existing development. The PAD provides for 0 front, side, and rear setbacks except when located next to a residential property line. Also, because of the pedestrian-oriented development, parking requirements have been reduced by 25%, which is similar to what is going to be happening in City Center. There are existing design guidelines for Western Avenue, which are included in the city's design guideline manual. The PAD expands on these guidelines by establishing standards that address appropriate colors, materials, roof lines, landscape materials, and signage that is appropriate for Western Avenue. New development or redevelopment should be consistent with the existing and historic development. A citizen review meeting was held on August 23, 2007. 2 surrounding properties owners attended the meeting and gave their support for the project. The rezone was also discussed at several historic Goodyear residential neighborhood meetings where it was supported by the neighborhood. There are 4 private property owners on the site, and all have received copies of the PAD and notice of the rezoning, and the city has received no objection to the rezone. The current Public Facilities District zoning is not appropriate for this site. The proposed Western Avenue PAD is consistent with the general plan designation of community commercial and with the surrounding land uses. The rezone is also consistent with the goals of the Litchfield Corridor Revitalization Plan. The city is currently working on revitalizing this area through facade grants, infrastructure improvements, and other means. The Western Avenue PAD will assist the city and private property owners with the revitalization of this area. Staff recommends approval of the rezone. And this concludes my presentation, and I'd be able to take any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you. Comments from the public? Okay. Seeing none, ask the clerk to read this ordinance by title, please.
Ordinance 08-1098, providing for conditional rezoning of 3.05 acres of land from the Public Facilities District zoning district to the final planned area development zoning district, generally located at the northeast corner of Litchfield Road and Western Avenue, adopting supplementary zoning map number 07015 to provide for the change in zoning, providing separability, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a motion to approve the ordinance?
Mr. Mayor, move the adoption of ordinance number 08-1098 as read by the city clerk.
Second. Motion from Councilmember Souza and a second from Councilmember Lord. It's open for discussion. Just one question. I noticed on the page 10, principal permitted uses requiring a use permit. 3 is automobile and other motorized vehicle-oriented services, including but not limited to lube and oil, tire sales, repair, upholstery. And yeah, that's a service stations and body work are a prohibited use. Why? What's the rationale there?
Thank you, Mayor Kavanaugh. To be honest, it was originally put in there because the city was trying to get the Goodyear tire site and the Goodale True Value to become a part of this PAD. And we also thought that by having this in here, hopefully they could come into the PAD in the future, because although they have commercial and industrial standards, so their uses are allowed, because of they don't necessarily meet the development regulations of setbacks. So if they ever wanted to expand their businesses, they would need to be a part of this PAD. So we included that as use permit so that we could allow for, that expansion or allow for that use through use permitted if it ever came to be, but it wouldn't be appropriate on the northeast corner.
Okay.
If that.
All right. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Lord?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Antoniak?
Aye.
Councilmember Sousa?
Aye.
Councilmember Cavalier?
Aye.
Councilmember Osborne?
Aye.
Councilmember Holland?
Aye.
Mayor Kavanaugh?
Aye.
Passed 7-0.
Okay, thank you. We'll now move to 8E, consider adoption of an ordinance for Cedarville and Yuma rezoning. David Cannon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. The subject 26-acre property is highlighted in red on this exhibit and is located at the northwest corner of Cedarville Avenue and Yuma Road. This exhibit denotes the existing zoning on the 26-acre property. Currently, 20 out of the 26 acres is zoned general commercial, and the remaining 6 acres is zoned agricultural urban. This pink portion represents the general commercial area, and the green portion represents agricultural urban designation. Located to the west and to the east is low-density residential, and located to the south is agricultural urban, and that's the Manderbilt Farm subdivision, and then located to the north is agricultural urban. The applicant is making 2 requests. The first request is to remove stipulation number 10 from ordinance number 2001-768, which currently limits the size of any retail user to no more than 65,000 square feet on the existing 20 acres that are zoned general commercial. The applicant's second request is to rezone 6 acres from the agricultural urban zoning district to the general commercial zoning district. So basically this section right here. The applicant is making these requests because he intends to submit a large retail user application for a 109,000 square foot Fry's Marketplace. The current zoning of the existing 20-acre general commercial zone property would prohibit such an application because of an existing stipulation which limits the size of any single retail user to 65,000 square feet or less. The applicant has also stated that it is necessary to increase the size of the commercial center from 20 to 26 acres so that it is large enough to accommodate a Fry's Marketplace. The citizen review meeting was held on September 17th at City Hall. Approximately 10 residents attended that meeting. At the meeting, a family who owns property to the north of the subject property opposed the proposal because they believe the addition of a Fry's Marketplace would create a regional commercial center where a neighborhood commercial center was originally contemplated. They were also concerned that the rezoning would leave a portion of their property bordered by commercial on two sides. The applicant has had several discussions with that family and is working with them on a possible land swap. The applicant can provide additional information if requested. Staff supports this rezoning request and believes that the combined 26 acres of general commercial zoning is appropriate at this location. The rezoning of 6 additional acres will not prevent the vacant property from the north from developing residentially, as envisioned by the general plan. Staff also supports the removal of stipulation 10 from ordinance number 2001-768 because the city now requires a submittal of a special use application for all retail users that exceed 100,000 square feet. The large retail user application was not in place when the 20-acre property received its general commercial zoning in 2001. The criteria for a large retail user includes substantial site and architectural design standards, which are intended to ensure quality development and to ensure the impact, or rather, and to reduce the impact of big box development on adjacent property. This concludes my presentation. The applicant is here, and staff's also available for questions.
Okay, so what you're recommending then is approval of the ordinance with the exception of elimination of number 10 as a specification, right?
Ms. Mayor, that's correct. That's the first part of it.
Okay, thank you. Opportunity now for the applicant.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Ed Bull, 702 East Osborne. I'm here this evening on behalf of the Schemer family, or the Schemer Families LLC, which is present here this evening, and other members of the team are here as well. If you have questions of any of us, we'll do our best to answer them. We certainly appreciate both the Planning Commission's unanimous recommendation for approval and staff's recommendation for approval. We accept all 21 of the stipulations that are set forth in the ordinance. We believe for a whole host of reasons what we're requesting here makes a great deal of sense. In addition to that, I want to emphasize this evening, as we emphasized in front of the Planning Commission, and as you know from staff's report, we know that this is one of many steps in a process. We'll be back with the request for special use permit, for possible other use permits, for site plan approval, so on and so forth. So this is one of many steps. Mayor and Council, I need your direction on whether or not you really want or need a presentation from me on this, and to the best of my knowledge, we are here without opposition. We know that we have the president of one of the adjacent homeowners associations here, I believe, to speak in support, if you would like. We want to get approved. I'm happy to make as much a presentation as you want or need. But for a whole lot of sense, we believe the recommendations that before you are correct, and we would ask that your council agree with those recommendations. And I ask you if you need me to go further than that, or if you're comfortable, we're comfortable.
Can we proceed, and we'll determine if we need additional assistance from the volunteers here, okay?
You bet.
Okay, opportunity for the public to comment?
Mr. Mayor, I have one speaker card from Dennis Duncan.
Okay.
Dennis Duncan, 16466 West Durango Street, Mayor Council. I'm here representing the Vanderbilt Homeowners Association as the president. We're for approval of the Fry's Marketplace coming into the neighborhood. We think it'll be a big plus for the neighborhood. Mr. Shermer has attended meetings and did the presentation at one of our association meetings. He's also provided me with comments because he's required to meet, talk with the people within 500 feet of the property. He supplied me with those comments, and we have absolutely no negative input. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments from the public? Okay, seeing no further comment, ask the clerk to read the ordinance by title only, please.
Ordinance 08-1099, providing for conditional rezoning of 26 acres of land, removing stipulation number 10 from ordinance number 2001-768, which currently limits the size of any single retail user to a maximum of 65,000 square feet on 20 acres of existing general commercial zone property, and to rezone 6 adjacent acres from the agricultural urban zoning district to the general commercial zoning district, generally located at the northwest corner of Cerebral Avenue and Yuma Road, adopting supplementary zoning map number 07020 to provide for the change in zoning, providing separability, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, thank you. Could I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve ordinance number 08-1099 as read by the clerk and removing stipulation number 10 from ordinance number 2001-768.
Second. Motion from Vice Mayor Antoniak, second from Councilmember Cavalier. It's open for discussion.
I just have one comment. I think it's going to be great for the neighborhood, but I would just like to be sure the architecture and the design is one that fits well in the neighborhood, since it is, you know, the only commercial property around there.
Mayor, Councilmember Lord, I can assure you that through discussions with staff and back in front of the Commission and Council, that will be part of the SUP process on the, hoping we're back here with a Fry store on that, because that site plan review goes through this hearing room as well, in addition to with staff. So, and there's steps in that talk about an architectural master plan and a site plan master plan. So I do expect that there will be compatibility that's called for.
Thank you.
Member Osborne?
As a former resident of Wildflower Ranch, I have to tell you, I don't feel good about this. This change, I could have seen it staying as neighborhood commercial, and I truly believe that changing this of regional commercial is not going to be good for this area. I think it changes the character, and I think that this is a case where historic zoning should stay that way. We've known for a long time that there were residences all around this area. Lived there for years driving Cerebral, and I'm sorry, I cannot support this. I wish I could give a better reasoning, but it's the feeling that I have over that neighborhood and that area, and a neighborhood, a regular price grocery store would be just fine, a 65,000 square foot grocery store, but not one of that size, I believe, is just a complete character change, and I cannot support it.
Mayor, may I? I'm sorry.
Yes.
May I
And then we'll get
respond?
to Councilmember Holland. Would you like to comment on that?
Did you get any opposition from any of the other residents? I mean, we heard what was approved, but you opened it up to the public, and did you hear from anyone else that there was a negative connotation?
I don't know where to go to first.
Let's do it.
Okay, let me answer that first, and then I'll come back to this, to Councilmember Osborne's question, because that may make a more involved answer. Mayor, Councilmember Holland, Barry Schemer was present at the neighborhood meeting, was present at homeowners association meetings, including Wildflower Ranch Homeowner Association meeting, and did a good bit of door-to-door work as well. A person who had hoped to be here tonight to speak in support is the president of the Wildflower HOA. She had a church conflict instead and could not be here this evening, but we know, Barry knows from exchange of emails, that the president of the Wildflower HOA had intended to be here. The vast majority, almost unanimous response that Barry was getting as he was going door to door, talking with people that he could find and home in the neighborhoods to the east, which is Wildflower, to the south, which is Vanderbilt, and to the west as well. people were supportive. There were some questions and some inquiries about this and that, and I can't tell you that everyone is supportive. I think Barry ran into 2 people along the way that had, one person along the way, I stand corrected, who had concerns, who's a resident, I believe, to the west, if I remember correctly, and then as staff indicated, there have been ongoing discussions with the property to our immediate north and a possible land trade and so on. But I don't believe there was any opposition coming out of Wildflower. As I indicated, the president of the HOA had hoped to be here to speak in support. Mayor, Councilmember Osborne, kind of piggybacking on the neighborhood work that was in Wildflower and other neighborhoods, and the president intending to be here in support, I thought it was important to get some of that out before I went further in responding to your particular concern, and that the indications that Barry has received is that this is the type of development that neighbors in this area want to see. We had a neighbor come and speak in front of the Planning Commission who had bought a lot in the area, who hasn't moved in yet, who just heard about this shortly before the Planning Commission hearing. And as soon as he said that, I thought, oh no, what's coming out next? But what came out next was for that gentleman to say that he was really happy with this application and was looking forward to this market coming to this site to be this close to where their new home will be. I would also say that we do not consider this at all, and I don't think staff considers it to be a regional facility. Fry's is a grocery store that orients itself to neighborhoods. They do not go into regional mall kinds of settings or on freeways or freeway interchanges and so on. My wife and daughters and I have one less than a mile from where we live, and it's a Fry's marketplace.
Of that size.
It's a Fry's marketplace of approximately 100,000 square feet. They do a variety of things that I think plays into some of the architectural questions as well, through both vertical and horizontal movement on the buildings and contrasting materials and colors and other kinds of things. So this does not look like a huge box kind of store. Clearly it's a grocery store, and there's other kinds of merchandise that can be purchased within the grocery store as well, but it's occurring within the Fry's store as opposed to a smaller, say 65,000 square foot store, and then another independent store next door and another independent store next door. So it's something that we believe has been very well received by the neighbors, including in Wildflower, that Barry could find at home, and I can assure you he spent a lot of time walking streets out there. In addition to that, I can assure you that through the SUP processes, first with staff and then ultimately with your commission and council, there will be plenty of opportunities to look at things like setbacks, which is part of the reason we need the additional land, landscaping, how parking lots lay out, a whole bunch of other things that, as you know, are woven into your large single user ordinance, which will be scrubbed through staff and then come back through this hearing room. So we, for that and a variety of other reasons, don't consider it to be regional. We consider it to be an appropriate use on this site, and are very pleased with the neighborhood reaction and the recommendations that we have before you.
Thank you. Very good. Okay, we have an ordinance here, so could I have a roll call vote, please?
Vice Mayor Antoniak?
Aye.
Councilmember Sousa?
Aye.
Councilmember Cavalier?
Aye.
Councilmember Osborne?
Nay.
Councilmember Holland?
Aye.
Councilmember Lord?
Aye.
Mayor Kavanaugh?
Aye.
Passed 6-1.
Okay, thank you. We'll now move to information, comments, reports on current events and presentations by the mayor, council members.
The memo up here from Dee Cochran, or from Sue Bugart, through Dee Cochran, talking about special event liquor licenses. Did you catch the dates on that?
Did what?
Did you catch the dates, the errors on the dates? Or am I reading this thing wrong? It says January 9th, 2008, special event liquor license. The following special event liquor licenses have been approved for October, November, and December 2007.
Right.
Should be 2008?
No. You have given the city manager authorization for us to approve special event liquor licenses if there's not been any outstanding issues with them in the past. So we're to report to you once a quarter the licenses that we have.
After the fact?
Yes, after the
Okay.
fact.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Further comments? Okay, just a reminder that get in your financial reports by the end of the month, if you haven't done that already. And manager's summary of current events and reports.
Mayor, members of the council, don't have any updates, but I do have some follow-up items, if I could go right into that. Briefly, a couple of things that came up have been asked by council. One is the status of the budget for HDR relative to what the actual expenditures are. Second one is working with Mr. Camerata, if I said that correctly, Youth Sports. Two follow-up items. One was to bring back an information item to council relative to Youth Sports. The second is information on the meetings that staff has had with him. Third item was with Mr. Stephen Anderson. He'd requested the city to look at $40,000 in playground enhancements for Palm Valley Elementary. So we'll be meeting with him and getting more information, see what process that may need to go through. The other follow-up item was make sure that signage is appropriate for future zonings. Are they visible, those types of things, and we'll just take a look at what our requirements are and is it meeting the needs. And two last items. One, and this was within the zoning case council heard, but just to reiterate, we'll be looking at Charles Boulevard related to traffic and speeds and those types of things.
And Pebble Creek, right?
And Pebble Creek Parkway, yes, thank you. And the other is a letter of process to the residents in Palm Valley 5, and we'll be working through their HOA. We'll be looking and posting on a website. And maybe surprising Mr. Kraus with this, but we're considering, we've talked about with some of the residents there on a Planning 101 type of workshop, just to talk about how our processes work. We may extend that out to the public, but that would cover everything from general plans to how zoning works, those types of things. So, Mr. Mayor, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Any inquiries of staff by council? Okay, meeting